Hey, Steve, do you remember Tila Tequila?
Yes. Uh-huh.
All right, just checking. Welcome to the newest installment of the greatest horror movie review podcast in the known galaxy. It's Dead and Lovely.
I do. I remember Tila Tequila. Yeah.
Never forget. Never forget.
Yeah.
You're here with the host with the most. It's me, your good buddy, Uncle Ben.
Me, Hollywood Steve.
And we are recording this episode where we're going to be having a good old chin wag about Silent Hill. We're recording this on December the 22nd. So we're on what? Festivus Eve, I guess?
Uh-huh, yeah. Getting ready to air them grievances.
Oh, man, I got
Get
the
ready
poll.
for feats of strength.
Mm-hmm, that's right. All
I'm
of our
just gonna
favorite
wrestle my
traditions.
wife. She's gonna
Yeah,
find
that's a
out.
good idea. Yeah, just have a little razzle, huh?
Yeah.
A little razzle-dazzle. And, of course, if you want to get straight onto the movie review and find out if you should watch Silent Hill, you're probably listening to the wrong show. But if you just want to get to that, there's a timestamp for you.
Any other podcast about horror movies?
Yeah, maybe. Because we're here to shoot the shit, have a good time, and all that stuff. So if you want to get right onto it, there's a timestamp for you in the podcast description. But you want to stick around because we got some good stuff this episode.
We do.
You want to hang out with us here. How you been doing,
That's
Steve?
right.
Are you feeling holly and jolly?
Oh, fuck no, man.
Here's the funny thing, dude. Like, just out of curiosity, this week, I went back and scrolled through our past several Christmas episodes that we've done, you know, because we did our Lord of the Rings episode last week and stuff, and I was like, I wonder what the Christmases were like the past couple of years. You and I have both had pretty disastrous Christmases for 4 or 5 years running now.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
You know, like, I guess leading up to this, it's just like, I've had just shit. And
Just old shit.
I just don't, like, even know how to address it, because it's just like, I don't want to bum anybody out. This is coming out the week after Christmas, but man, fucking Jesus Christ.
2020, man. It's fucking 2020.
It's just not even 2020, because 2021's not gonna be better, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
and like, I know we're all mad, but like, fucking god damn it, just
you can do
fucking,
stuff to help. You can do tiny things to help, and a lot of people aren't.
yeah
We're trying to live in a society.
Yeah, just like fucking, I don't know. I mean, there's not a whole lot individuals can do to fix everybody's problems, but if you can, I mean, it's the time of year. I mean, we're past Christmas at this point, but what the fuck does that matter? It's a timeless void of pandemic. Just if I can help people, because the people we pay money to do that exact thing are not doing it, so do what you can.
It's up to us. Yeah, that's right, man. It's as the great Mormon himself said,
yeah,
flying through the air with his flaming pumpkins. Don't be assholes to each other, y'all.
That's what he said.
The great Mormon did once say that. Well, I really hope that 2021, sees things returning to some sort of normality in some way, and that people can be good to each other and stuff.
Right. We got the vaccine coming.
See.
My wife, we got the vaccine, as I mentioned,
my Lord of mercy. Has she grown her second head yet?
Well, today is the day that it should have happened, and she's asleep right now, so I'm going to guess it's happening in her sleep. And when we're done recording, I'll go wake her up, and she'll be like, oh, hey, it's me. And me.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to wake up in the middle of the night, and she's going to be snoring and sleep talking at the same time. You're like, baby, how are you doing that? And you flick on the lights. 2 heads.
Wow.
2 of them.
How's that? I'm married to 2 women now. I'm a real Mormon.
I was going to say, you're back to being a Mormon again, I guess.
I guess I got to put on my garments.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose
They'll protect
right.
me from a fire, don't worry.
Oh, yeah, and the stabbings and stuff, too.
And stabbings or whatever, yeah.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Well, it's been a wild one, man. I've had myself a pretty busy week, honestly. It's one of those deals that, I feel like I've just stayed pretty constantly busy working on video stuff and, wrapping presents and making stuff. I always like to make a bunch of food stuffs and things like that we are delivering this year. We're not going to be doing really any in-person Christmas stuff. We did like Christmas delivery gift drops for my side of the family there the other day. And we're going to do the same thing for my wife's side of the family. Just drop stuff off on the porch and either open presents on Zoom or just, stand back and watch the paper fly through the air as people open gifts or whatever. But I ain't going nowheres. Steve. I ain't doing nothing.
No, on Christmas Day, my wife will be at work. So
Yeah.
I normally do get to hang out with family, and I like that bit, and that's a bummer. My mom did send me a what do you call it? One of them gift cards.
Oh, yeah? Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Very handy.
and it
very
had
handy.
a dog on it. Very sweet. Thank you, Mom.
Okay.
I don't
well,
think
very
she
good. Way to go,
listens,
Mom.
but I'm thanking her anyway.
She knows. Her mom senses are tingling right now. Yeah, we're just gonna stay in. I'm gonna be cooking a prime rib for the first time. Never done that before.
Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
I got a gorgeous ass prime rib from Hen Hawk Butcher Shop in the Old City, Knoxville.
Yeah,
grass-fed, marbleized, ready to roll. I hope I don't fuck it up.
Hey, Hinnock, if you ever want to advertise,
that's true.
I'll
You
let
can
your
do
boys.
That. Mm-hmm. That's right.
I'll take meat rather than money, honestly.
I mean, the money's gonna go towards meat anyway.
Yeah,
so
what's the difference?
Cut out the middleman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man,
So
I'll
that's
tell you
awesome,
what.
yeah, prime rib.
I'm sipping myself on a little bit of nog right now.
Oh, you noggin it?
Mm-hmm. I've got a Cruise Farm eggnog, which is delicious, but I've also dumped a bunch of bourbon inside of it.
Good call.
It's getting pretty good to me. Are you a nogsman? Are you a nogger?
Oh, I love eggnog. I cannot have any. Because if I did, dude,
You'll have all of it.
I'll have all of it. That's always been my problem with eggnog and things like peach nectar, things that are super thick. I don't know why they just taste so perfectly right to me, and I can just go through so much of it that it's terrible. A peach nectar or eggnog, an infinite amount of sugar in every serving.
Oh
But
yeah,
it's so good.
Totally. You got a brand preference when it comes to a nog?
Ooh,
Weigel's makes a good nog.
I was gonna say Weigel's. If you're going full nog, you might. Weigel's is a local, what is it? It's a gas station basically
market chain,
/ convenience store. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They put sugar in their milk, which makes their milk very popular. So if you're
Do
going
they
for eggnog,
really?
yeah, they do. They add sugar to their milk, which is why their milk is so popular.
That explains it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's those are the people to go to for eggnog. Honestly, we talked about it, I think last week. If you're gonna go say French toast, or you're gonna go for candy for breakfast or whatever, fucking go for it.
Just go all in, man.
Out. Yeah.
It's don't do it every day, but come on.
Right. But
Treat
go
yourself a
for
little
it
bit.
when you do. Yeah.
This Cruise Farm one is really good. It's not overly sugary. It's not overly nutmeggy. A lot of times people can go really overboard with that nutmeg, and it just becomes an assault. But this just has a nice mild amount to it. It's also not overly thick. Whenever you buy, I don't know, the Southern Comfort brand or whatever, you can tell it's just this is a fuck ton of Carrageenan in here. That's just making it gelatinous, and it sucks.
Yeah.
This is more natural thickness, almost like buttermilk consistency or something like that.
Ooh, yeah, that's how you
It's
like
a taste of country living, I'll tell you that, man. Pretty damn good stuff. So, what have you been watching this week, Steve? Anything good?
Man, I have watched so much good stuff, and unfortunately cannot talk about some of it because it just came out.
Just a little bit fresh.
I really, do not want to ruin it for anybody, but Mandalorian Season 2 is... The Mandalorian is the best thing about the Star Wars universe, period.
It's fucking amazing.
I've seen people saying, oh, it's better than those sequels, and then other people being like, it's better than the prequels. I'm telling you, it's better than the original series.
Wow. So you're that hardcore about it, huh?
Yeah, it's by far better than those movies. Yes, you need those movies to set up The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian wouldn't make any sense in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
But, god damn, do they nail every single story.
It's so fucking good, man. And it totally runs with the whole space western idea that the original trilogy was founded on.
Yeah, and that's where I love it. Because the original trilogy goes with that, but doesn't nail the western the way the Mandalorian does. And I love westerns. So the Mandalorian is the best. I mean, he's not even pretending that the original trilogy is not fucking amazing.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying the Mandalorian is that good.
Yeah, totally. It's at least on that level. And There's so
Maybe
much
better.
of it. That's the thing, dude, is like at this point we have, what, like 20 hours of it? Holy shit. That's like 10 movies worth, and it's all fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, I've not talked to anybody that hates it. And I'm talking, you know, whether it's like hardcore Star Wars fans that lost faith with the new trilogy, or
Right.
kids that grew up with Phantom Menace and stuff like that love those more than we do.
Right.
It's basically universal, where it's just like, if you like things that are nice, you like The Mandalorian because it's fucking awesome. But yeah,
It really is.
we won't spoil it or anything like that, because
Yeah.
there's some magic in this season, and I don't want to take that away from anybody.
It unfortunately got slightly spoiled for me, and I was like, "Oh, surely that moment is not like the pinnacle of the season." Turns out it was, and as it was about to happen, I was like, "Fuck!
Yeah.
God damn it! I wish I didn't know this was about to happen."
See, I didn't know that it was coming, and whenever that thing happened, like, my hairs on my arm were standing up and shit.
It's so
it was
good.
like electric. It was
Yeah.
fucking amazing, man. Yeah, they really knew how to build the world out when they made that series, you know?
Yeah.
I think everything they're doing with it is fantastic, and I would love to give Jon Favreau the keys to the entire thing
I
and just
really
let
hope
him
they
let him
do
drive
that.
it.
Yeah, and I think that is in the cards, because that's the Kevin Feige MCU model.
Yep.
Where basically you have the one epicenter who's got everything in view, and everybody else is pitching to him. I really would like Jon Favreau to have that control, because I trust him. I think he could do it in a way that will not dismiss stuff that's been done recently, because I think that's something a lot of Star Wars fans want, and I don't want this dismissal of recent movies or the prequels or whatever. Embrace all of it. Embrace the cartoons. Embrace every bit of it you can, and just roll with it.
I'm convinced if anybody can do it, it's him.
It's him, yeah, absolutely. And fucking honestly, like, watching, I won't say anything to spoil any episodes, but watching and seeing it, because I watch everything with subtitles on, because I'm an old person. Seeing Frogman yells in Frog. I was like,
Frog.
that's the most honest Star Wars has ever been, and I fucking love it.
That's true. He is a frogman yelling in frog.
Yeah, you don't have to give him, he's not a fucking Frogonian or anything. He's a frogman. Fucking whatever.
Just go with it.
Yeah, go with it. And I'm like, yes, I want to. Thank you.
I want a soap opera about them frog people. I want to just see them fronging and just developing their little romance and stuff. I want to see that.
Yeah.
They're so sweet, those frog people.
They are.
I love
so,
it, man.
Slight spoiler, they're frog people, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, no. Fuck.
Yeah. I also watched Big Mouth Season 4, which, again, I don't want to spoil, but
yeah,
like,
we're
fucking
about
how do you spoil it? Like
3/4 of the way through it. So we've not finished it yet, but holy fuck. Was it not amazing? I've been loving
it. It's the best. God damn, that show depicts puberty in a way no one has ever really depicted it.
Absolutely. And it just continues growing, too. Like, that's the thing, is after the first couple seasons of that show, you're like, well, where else can they go with this? And then, even in this new season, there's still more new directions and new perspectives and things that you've never seen explored this way. Like, all the time while we're watching Big Mouth and just, laughing our dicks off, my wife is just constantly like, I've never seen girls' puberty depicted this way before, because it's accurate.
Yes. Very accurate. The show is so good at depicting so many different perspectives in a way that, like, just no other show has nailed on the teenage level. I mean, like, Freaks and
it's
Geeks
also hilarious,
and some other shows
though.
have been really good at it. But yeah, this show nails it and makes all of it funny.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, too, because it's like, it makes some of those, honestly, big topics about sexuality and going through puberty and changing as a human and stuff. It makes that stuff a lot more easy to digest and a lot more easy to approach, because you're laughing the entire time, too.
Yep.
It really is fantastic and is doing things that no show has ever done. And it's a fucking animated Netflix show. I can't say enough about it.
Also, just after seeing season 4 and you telling me how much you were liking it as you watched it, I really think you need to watch BoJack Horseman,
dude,
like, as soon as possible. Like,
so that's another funny thing, is like going back and listening through those earlier holiday episodes. I just listened to the intros of a few of them. One of them from, I think, like 3 or 4 years ago, we talked about Big Mouth, and BoJack Horseman, and I was like, I need to watch that.
You do. Dude, BoJack is like it's like grown-up Big Mouth. It's like, what is adulthood like in reality?
Oh, okay. I got it.
And it nails it. And it's all, I mean, you know, it's not everybody's adulthood, but it is adulthood for people who work in entertainment and stuff like that. Like,
nice.
It's exactly what adulthood is like, and it's scary accurate and like just nails everything. And is funny, and also, just like Big Mouth, can really cut you to the exact like core and be like, fuck, why are you looking at me? This is I'm watching a show.
Badass dude, man. So yeah, definitely watch new season Big Mouth if you've not. Have you got anything else cool this week?
Yeah, I watched. Okay, well, as far as cool, but I watched something.
You watched a thing, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, it's at this point we're around Christmas. And my thought was, I'm going to watch all the Black Christmases this month. And we talked about Black Christmas 2019 last episode.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm going to watch Black Christmas 1974 on Christmas itself. But I never had seen Black Christmas 2006.
Yeah, I knew people hated it, but I never saw it.
Boy, let me tell you something about that movie.
It's really good. It's a cinematic experience, the likes of which has never been known.
Okay, so last week we talked about how 2019 seems like so disconnected from the movie it's remaking.
Yeah. 2006
seems so connected and then like overly disconnected. Like,
ooh.
It is like, it's like, you know that movie you like, right? Well, hold on. It has like just gorgeous women in it. It kind of nails that like Black Christmas vibe, like the beginning, where it's just a bunch of gorgeous women, you know, having fun at a Christmas
sorority
party.
house, yeah.
Yeah. But then like, It doesn't waste any time getting, like, cute about who the killer is. You know who the killer is. And guess what? The killer is also yellow, like that dude from Sin City.
Oh, like actually yellow.
Which is probably what I think it said in the script. Yellow, like that dude in Sin City.
So you're saying, like, in this reality of Black Christmas, there are, like, mutant people that are banana yellow.
No, well, he has a liver something.
Okay.
Anyway, it also it's also one of the rare horror movies where someone dies in it unrelated to a killer.
Oh, cool. Somebody just dies of natural causes or something.
No, by an accident. After the killer kills somebody else. And it's not like, oh no, they ran into a pitchfork type of thing. No, yeah. Like absolute happenstance then kills them.
What?
Here's the thing though. Black Christmas 2019, I think, is a movie that stands on its own. Like it shouldn't be called Black Christmas. This had to be called Black Christmas because it is so like playing off of Black Christmas, but it's so different in a ridiculous, absurd way that I think it fits into the category of good bad movies because it's very watchable and funny how ridiculous it is,
but it didn't really mean to be.
I don't know if it did. Maybe it did.
Maybe it did. I don't know. Maybe it's that self-aware. Who knows?
It's almost like whoever wanted to adapt the movie, whatever producer, or if it was Glenn Morgan himself, it's like that person saw Black Christmas as a kid in a particularly silly mood, and they thought it was like a silly, fun movie.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then they were like adapting it from that memory instead of rewatching it.
That is a strange way to go about making a movie.
Yeah. So, maybe watch it. I mean, honestly, as far as Christmas horror movies go, it's fun and stupid.
Did you like it better than 2019?
I think 2019's better, honestly. Like,
wow. Ugh.
I think 2019's a better movie in like what it's trying to do and like how it looks and stuff and how it's acted. But I think 2006 is probably a more entertaining watch.
Okay. All right.
But entertaining in a different way. It's not like if you're looking for Black Christmas 1974, watch Black Christmas 1974, because neither of the remakes fit that same vibe.
Word. Yeah, I get it, man. You watched another Christmas horror flick that I also happened to check out recently, A Better Watch Out, right?
Yes. Yeah, you recommended it. You said you watched it, and I was like, well, fuck, I'm trying to watch Christmas horror movies, and I haven't seen this one, so turned it on, and dude, that movie is tense.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I was surprised by it, man, because I kind of watched it because I was like, man, I watch the same movies every year. Like a lot of my stuff that I've watched this week is like
find new stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of the stuff I've watched this week is stuff I've watched every year that I've said 3 or 4 years now on the podcast. So I was like really excited to try to find a new Christmas movie, much less a new Christmas horror movie that was, pretty good and pretty watchable and one that I'd see again. And I stumbled across that and I was like, damn, this is very different from what I was expecting. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah. The teen actors fucking nailed it, dude. Like it was so tense throughout, and I don't want to like spoil anything. I hated the antagonist so much.
Oh my god, absolutely
like, so hateable.
For real, man.
But also it plays out in a very logical way where it's like you think this is gonna happen, and it's like, yep, that's what happens. But also, boy, that was brutal. God damn.
Yeah. And I don't think it's any kind of spoiler to say, like, watching the preview for it got my attention, and I thought it was going to go one way, and then you watch the movie and you're like, oh, this is a different movie.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, personally. Like,
me too, yeah.
The direction it went to is better than the direction I thought it was going to go, so I was happy with that.
It did a really good job of, like, maintaining tension in a way that, I think it made it one of those movies I definitely will go back to in future Christmases. What have you been watching, man?
Man, other than just the usual Christmas fare that we usually check out, we caught a couple of things this week, one of which was the 2019 Christmas Carol series, which we happened to put out a Patreon-only episode where we reviewed it. We put that out on a Crimbus Day this year. And
a Crimbus Day.
If you support us on the Patreon, you can get a listen to it. But if you don't, you can't. Fuck you. Ooh. Yeah, they needed that.
They really did.
Yeah. So even for just $1 a month over on our Patreon page, over at
patreon.com/deadandlovely. Head over there.
That's right. You can check that one out and find out our thoughts on that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Also watched Babes in Toyland.
Okay. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Dude, I had never seen it. It's one that Kate watched when she was a kid. Her and her sister loved it because it's got songs, and it's got Keanu Reeves, and it's got Drew Barrymore. And, it was like one night we were working on Christmas stuff and wrapping presents and all that kind of shit around here. And Kate was like, guess what I found? One of my childhood favorites. And she put it on, and I'm like, this is a nightmare.
Uh-huh.
I was extremely fucking weirded out by this thing. It made me feel bad.
As a child, I was very much weirded out by it. That's kind of why I laughed when you said it. I was like, wait, what? Like,
what's with the weird bird guy?
Watch that? Yeah.
Like, there's a guy that looks like a weird vulture, and he's got like a fucking 6-inch long thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody in Toyland suspects that he might be the evil guy, even though like his little henchman buddies look like goddamn Nosferatu and damn Nurgle from Behemoth. What the fuck?
I mean, that's just that's how, what was it, the late 80s, early 90s? That's how that was.
Dude, it's just a reminder of how much cocaine was floating around the States during this time period, because this is just a big old cokehead party, for sure.
Yeah.
It did not make me feel good, Steve.
No.
I will not revisit that.
No, why would you?
We also watched a really cool and neat documentary that was put out by one of our favorite YouTube channels. I've talked about the Try Guys on here a couple of times. 4 dudes who started off on BuzzFeed together and split off to form their own entertainment group, their own YouTube channel and stuff. And man, they're just really, really cool. Like they're four dudes, and they try out new things, and it's just good, fun, entertaining stuff. But they're also like very super pro LGBTQ stuff. Last year, they put out a book which is called the Hidden Power of Fucking Up, which I really enjoy the title of. Mm-hmm. And they also did like a tour where they did like a touring show. Like it wasn't like a book tour; it was like a touring show. And they put out a documentary that you could buy tickets for. Of course, I'm sure it was supposed to be slated for like a limited theatrical release, but 2020, so they did like a streaming thing where you could buy tickets for it and watch the premiere. And they had like a red carpet thing that was before it and stuff. That was really fun, and I was just very happy to give those guys some dollar papers. You know, it's like, yeah, I've watched their videos and stuff like that, but dude, I've watched thousands of hours of those guys on the internet. It felt good to actually give them some dough. Well, we bought the book last year too, which is really good. But it was totally fun, man. It was a good watch, very well made, and kind of gave you some good behind the scenes stuff about what it's really like to be booking a tour while you're also putting together YouTube content, and while you're also, you know, having kids at the same time and all this kind of shit. It was a good watch, man, and I do think
Eugene
that they're just
came
good
out
dudes.
last year too. Like
that was a big part of it as well. Yeah, it's his big coming out video, that beautiful music video that he put out, which is amazing. You watched that, right?
I did. I like watching it. Like, one, very powerful, but two, all I could think about was that episode of Always Sunny with Max interpretive dance at the prison in front of his dad. Which is, by the way, you haven't? It's gorgeous.
No.
It is one of the few episodes of Always Sunny where shit gets like actually serious, and it's like, wow, okay,
really,
yeah, it's like deep, like all right. But yeah, like that's what I thought about when I saw that video. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. So I've also seen Keith eat a lot of things. So
yeah. Eat the menu videos are always good.
They are, especially because Keith has those like ridges on his tongue, so everything spicy is like super spicy to him.
Oh yeah, he gets blowed up all the time, man. Yeah, good watch. So we enjoyed that and stuff, and it was fun just kind of like being there and being a part of that. But I'll tell you one thing about this year that I'd kind of totally forgot about, and this has kind of got my gears turning a little bit here, where I'm like thinking about things that were a normal occurrence pre-2020 that I've just kind of totally forgotten about, because we paid tickets to watch, we paid money for tickets to watch this live stream thing. So we're sitting here watching it, and we got some Adobo pizza, so we're eating and stuff while we were watching it. And one thing I'd kind of forgot about, because I've not seen a movie in theaters since goddamn Birds of Prey in like February.
Oh, damn.
You remember how like whenever you're watching a movie in a theater and you really have to pee? And you just kind of have to like play Russian roulette and figure out if it's a good time to go, or you just sit there and hold it in misery. Forgot about that, because that's what I was doing during this stream, where I was like, I'm about to fucking pee my pants, but I can't pause this because it's a live stream. Kind of forgot that was a thing. Normal little things that you just forget about.
Do we miss that? I don't
miss that.
Right?
Honestly, I don't really miss that. And I was thinking about other stuff. Like, dude, like, when's the last time you went to a restaurant and had to wait on a table? I mean, I don't eat in anywhere anyway, but like...
Right. Well, I haven't gone to a restaurant ever.
Never. You've never been to a restaurant.
Months, I have not gone to a restaurant. So, yeah, I bet that's not a thing anymore.
You know, it's just one of those things that I'm like, I don't know the last time that I did that. When I was like, I want to go eat somewhere, and then they're like, you have to wait before you can sit down. Like, I don't know. I've eaten outside on a few patios and stuff like that over the summer, but that's about it. It's just like little things that you forget are like normal, you know?
Yeah, man, I'm missing normality. I honestly I hesitate to talk about this shit because it's just like I don't want to burden anybody, but also like
at the same time though, I think everybody's going through it, right?
Yeah, everybody's going through it. Just like I don't know what time it is ever.
Yeah, never.
I don't see the sun most of the time. Like yesterday today.
There we go. Case in point.
Yesterday was the shortest day of the year. And like I had physical therapy, so it was the first time I had seen the sun like been out in it in a few days, and I felt like a fucking vampire. Like,
Did you feel like Gollum coming out of the cave?
yeah, like fucking, it hurts us, precious. Like I did not like it. I think I know everybody's going through it, but like, and it's not unique to anyone, but it's also like, boy, it sucks.
Yeah.
It fucking sucks, man. I don't remember the taste of bread. Like, what the fuck? It burns us, precious. Like, I
strawberries
feel like,
and cream.
yeah, I just feel fucking like out.
I get it, man.
Silent Hill, honestly, this movie, like, I don't love it in any way, but it felt right. It felt like, yeah, you're just in this separate world.
Yeah, where time is kind of irrelevant and stuff just cycles.
Just exist and everything sucks. Yeah.
A little too accurate, huh? I get what you mean, though, man. Like, honestly, you know, I've been very thankful and very fortunate to be very busy all year, you know, where it's like, yeah, I've not been out touring and playing shows and doing rehearsals and stuff like that, but I've constantly maintained a level of busyness. But I think, honestly, it's just because it's the holidays, and I'm in that rhythm of the year where I'm like, this is the time where you're supposed to be going to see your family and see people. I've kind of been having a little bit harder time with it this week, too.
Yeah, I feel more like a fucking shut-in because of it. Because it's just like, no matter what, around this time I would still go see my family. Like, even if I hadn't seen them all year, it was like, well, Christmas, I'm gonna see my family. So it fucking sucks.
It's odd, man, but you know, that's the great thing about having creative pursuits, such as doing a podcast.
Yeah,
you know, it gives you something to focus on, it gives you something to do, and a reason to interact with other people as well, because, you know, I don't do a lot of hanging out with people these days, Steve.
No, it's
approximately
the worst,
none,
dude. I miss everybody. I miss anybody listening right now. I miss you. I don't even know you. I miss you. I miss people. It is the worst. I do want to get back to normality. So let's all fucking get injected with our Bill Gates microchip and get our superpowers or whatever. I don't
just get on with it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Steve, I would like to raise a toast to that. I finished off my Eggnog, and I'm about to open myself up a co-beer, a Dead and Lovely tradition. I've got myself a Lagunitas Sucks that I'm sipping on. You sent me a picture where you got a 6-pack of that
a
couple weeks ago. Got me jealous.
I was like, well, I'm going to drink. Like, I don't drink beer very often, but Lagunitas Sucks is out, so fuck yeah.
You got to get that, man.
Yeah.
Well, Kate actually surprised me with it. Come back from the grocery store with a sixer of Sucks, and I was like, oh, my Lord. Steve just had himself some of this stuff, so I was excited to have me some. I raised my glass to you. Lagunitas makes a quality item. I'll tell you that, man.
Do. Yeah,
this beer does not perform as advertised, as it does not suck.
That's true. That is a good point. It is lying to you by existing.
Yep.
It's saying to you, we suck, but in fact, they do not.
No, not at all, man. It's a delicious beer. Like, it's a little less hoppy than, let's say, the Maximus or the Hop Stupid or the regular IPA. It has a little bit more of a malty backbone, and I think the ABV is higher. I want to say it's maybe 8% or something like that. So it's a little bit different for Lagunitas, but man, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know if I've ever had any Lagunitas beer that I would describe as sucking. Like, I think they're
I think the
all
lowest,
amazing.
Yeah, the lowest tier is the Czech Pils.
Which is still really good.
It's
like, that's
still
the beer,
really fucking good for a Pilsner, yeah.
Yeah, that's the beer that led me to Lagunitas. Is because, like, even before I drank IPAs and stuff like that, I saw that Czech Pilsner at the Pick-a-Six at the Food City.
Yeah.
And I got it, and I was like, man, these people know how to make a good beer, and that's what led me to Maximus and shit like that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I am drinking on an Evan Williams. Same thing I was drinking last week, in fact.
Yeah.
Evan Williams Bottled in Bond 100 proof.
Woo, look out.
I don't know how readily available this is to people, but if you like a nice, spicy bourbon, I guess it's not a bourbon, it's from Tennessee. It's a Tennessee whiskey. If you like a nice Tennessee whiskey with some spice to it, fucking Evan Williams Bottled in Bond, a 100 proof. It's like $25 a half gallon. I know that sounds like it's not good, but it is so good.
Oh, yeah. I've waved the Evan Williams flag for a very long time. I even think just the regular Evan Williams Black Label is far superior to, like, let's say, Jim Beam and even straight up Jack Daniels. I mean, if you're making Jack and Coke and you are craving a Jack and Coke, Jack Daniels is kind of the only thing that'll do.
Well,
Same goes for, like,
that exact
Captain
flavor
Morgan
profile. Yeah, Captain Morgan and Coke is very specific because Captain Morgan has, like, a certain sweetness to it that really complements Coca-Cola. Yeah,
for sure, man. But, you know, if you're just going for just like, I need some cheap whiskey, whether you're making a mixer or just drinking it neat or whatever, I think Evan Williams fucking stomps a lot of stuff out there in that price range.
Yeah, I drink it neat all the time, I'm telling you. Evan Williams. Fuck, Evan Williams, holla at us.
Yeah, sponsor your boys. Fuck around, find out, see what happens. Well, cheers to you, Steve, and I'll tell you what, cheers to video games, because I'll tell you this, man.
Video games, I love them.
I myself have played a video game for quite some time in my life. In fact, I would say
the entirety of my life, as far as I understand.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, I my earliest memories involve playing video games. So.
Some of my earliest do as well, man. Yep, absolutely so. Because we got our Nintendo Entertainment System, you know, right around when that came out, which I would have been barely alive at that point. But some of my first memories are of playing it.
We had Odyssey 2.
Oh, wow.
Because my grandmother worked at the Magnavox factory in Jefferson City, Tennessee.
That's right.
So growing up, like, we had the Odyssey 2 the entirety of my life, basically.
That's cool.
So it was like playing Turtles or playing basketball or whatever. Like, the games were not good. Honestly, like, whenever the Nintendo came out, we were like, what the fuck? This is the thing you can do with video games? Like,
you're
what?
allowed to do this?
Yeah, they can move fast. Because remember how fast Mario is? Like, he's so fucking fast.
Oh, yeah. He scrolls to the side rapidly.
Yeah. Like, Sonic obviously changed the game. Let's get into the preview palace. Because I'm already...
We're getting amped up just to talk about this stuff already.
Right. Welcome to the Sonic Palace? Chili Dog Palace. I'm
Video
waiting.
Game Palace.
Tap, tap, tap. Gonna get some rings.
Yeah, there you go. Get them, man. Yeah, we decided that here for the Preview Palace portion of the show, we'd like to sit down and do a little chin wag about some of our favorite video games, about a top 5 of them there. And I'll tell you what, as far as the perspective, oh my God, yeah. But as far as the perspective from my list right here, you know, I feel like it's worth mentioning that all through my childhood, I was super hardcore into video games.
Yeah.
Like, extremely obsessive.
Like go outside
insane.
type of, like, get off of that, you're sitting too close to the screen type of shit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, maybe we should limit how much you can do this.
Exactly. Like, the concept of limiting it was brand new. Where your mom's like, maybe we should. And it's like, nah, Mom. No, you don't need to do that.
Well, that's the crazy thing about it, man. Is like, back then, you know, especially growing up when we did and where we did.
Yeah.
If you were a boy in the late 80s, early 90s, and you didn't play sports, it was really weird. And I didn't play sports at all. Like, I like to do art, and I like to play video games, and those are two things that none of my friends did. All of my friends were out there playing, you know, baseball, basketball, soccer. Like, they were all kind of sports dudes, and I found something that I was really good at. But the thing is because of the time period, it seemed very trivial. And it was all like, what are you wasting your time on that stuff for? And it's like, well, you know, cycle 20 years in the future, and there's like millionaire fucking competitive gamers. But I think that it was kind of a unique thing for us to see the value and the quality of these video games. Same with comic books and stuff like that, too. It's like, we were like, oh, these are fucking cool stories, but people looked at it like kids stuff. With video games, I was like, this is something I could see a lot of people really getting into and really enjoying if they gave it a try. But everybody was too busy being outside moving their bodies around. Like, why would you do that?
Well, I was outside basing a ball, footing a ball, you know, basketing a ball.
Yep.
I was doing all those
baller,
things.
The shot caller, brawler.
Yes, that's what they said about me. They were like, that kid is a shot caller. But I was doing those things, but like those things were kind of forced upon me. I'm glad they were. I very much appreciate all the experience I had in playing sports growing up, but I always just wanted to be playing video games. Like
Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, very much like Lana Del Rey. I was like, I do not want to be catcher right now. I want to be Lana Del Rey right now.
People were like, "Who's that?" You're like,
and I was like, "Don't worry, you're going to figure it out."
Find out.
Yeah. I was always just wanting to play video games. My cousin buddy was the same way. Like we played on teams together, and it was just like, oh, I wish we were all playing video games instead of this. The escapism of video games has always been my thing. Like I love the way video games bring you into a new world and let you be whatever you want to be.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And of course, especially nowadays, there's something out there for absolutely everybody, whatever it is that you're wanting to get away from and go do and pretend to be in for a little while. It's like there's something for everybody there. And that was absolutely my world, my entire, childhood and teenage years. And eventually when I started playing guitar when I was about 16 or so, that became such a gigantic focal point for me in my life that it was like something has to go. Like you're doing this 8 to 10 hours a day every day. Like there's not time for comic books. There's not time for video games. Like a lot of the things that had been my obsessions up to that point, there just simply wasn't time for because guitar really, really took over. So a lot of my list is going to be informed by like, okay, I did all this stuff really hardcore until the late 90s. And then, since then, I've discovered a few things that I've become mega obsessed with that are more like pick up and play, and it makes me super stoked for a while. But then I can always put it down and get back to work and playing guitar and stuff like that on my list. And one thing that I'm super hyped about, man, as I said, we're not doing like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day as a family or anything like that. We're doing everything long distance, and we're staying here at the apartment and stuff. But I am so stoked because we have just basically made plans to like fucking play video games for those 2 days. Like we're just going to lay around and eat and drink and play fucking video games. And I'm so stoked about that. So I'm sure there's a million things on my list here. Or rather, there's a million things that aren't on my list that I would become mega obsessed with, but I just don't know about them because
absolutely, dude. Same for me. My list is huge, and I really am going to be I am still struggling at this point to whittle it down to 5. So
you got any honorable mentions maybe that didn't quite make your list? Because I know for me, I would put stuff like the Gran Turismo series and like Need for Speed. Like,
man.
I'm not even gonna say that. Oh my god, dude! Yeah,
Gran Turismo I'm not as into, but Need for Speed, god damn, those games are so awesome.
Like Hot Pursuit and all that shit back on PlayStation was so fucking fun, man.
Yes.
And like, although I won't say that like racing games, like I fucking love racing games, they're my favorite. Those two specific series, dude, and Mario Kart, like I love so
specific racing games. Yes,
yeah,
like
totally.
they're very specific racing games that kind of nail exactly the feel that you want. I don't like, say, Gran Turismo or Forza where it's the actual realistic feel of racing. Yeah, I want it to be a video game.
Mm-hmm. I get that, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like an honorable mention that, like, I get, man, it is the hardest fucking thing for me to cut off my list. I even have it like highlighted as like maybe this is top 5, but all of the THQ wrestling games, WCW, NWO Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, and WWF No Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
It emulates WCW, NWO Revenge. I think emulates perfectly the actual flow of a wrestling match, exactly the way it should be.
I want to say you like played through a career mode in that a couple maybe years ago on the podcast or something. Didn't you? You talked about this.
Yeah, I continually play all 3 of those games because they are still good. Like you really need to understand wrestling to really love them the way that most wrestling fans love them. WWF No Mercy is considered by most people the best wrestling game of all time.
Damn.
And you really, like, I know it's Nintendo 64. I know it seems like, how could it be the best wrestling game of all time? But it fucking is. It nails everything about it. So there you go. Drink. We talked about pro wrestling.
There you go. Yep. It's on. I get it, man. Dude, my list of honorables could go on and on and on.
Yeah, me too.
Like, there's so fucking many. I feel like a heel because I didn't put any Mario games on my list when it's like, that's the foundation, dude. I mean, fucking Super Mario World for Super NES. You want to talk about one of the best Christmases I've ever fucking had? Holy shit, man.
Can I tell you, here is my story that I think needs to be told. There are other people out there with my story, and our story has not been told. We had grandmothers who bought us systems without the game.
Oh no. I could never imagine something so unfortunate
Super Nintendo
happening.
and a Nintendo 64 that did not come with the game.
Oh no,
I
that's
talked about this
sad.
before. I only recently played Super Mario World,
Yeah.
and I've never really played Mario 64.
Damn, dude.
Like I
That's wild.
Yeah, the only Mario game I really have much experience with, aside from, sequels, is the original that came with every Nintendo. I don't think they sold any Nintendo without that game. So,
But dude, those and like Super Mario Brothers 3 and stuff, I mean, it's like, yeah, they're classics or whatever, but it's like when you go back and play them, you're like, the play controls and stuff, the responsiveness of the controls were so perfect.
yes.
It never seems
Mario is
unfair,
still perfect.
Like a lot of those games from that era, you'll die and stuff bad happens and you're like, this fucking game is unfair. It was programmed badly. Those games are programmed flawlessly and they're fair.
They're perfect.
It's really bizarre that they were able to do that before that was even a notion in games. I mean, what Shigeru Miyamoto and that entire team at Nintendo were doing back then, I mean, you've got to wonder if they are fucking time travelers. It's insane.
Yeah, they were just thinking way beyond the limits of anything they had seen so far.
Yeah. You got any other honorable mentions? Or you ready to get onto your number 5 on your list?
Yeah, let's get to number 5 because I have so many honorable mentions that it would just get ridiculous.
Same. Yeah, me too.
Number 5 is Minecraft.
Oh, wow, yeah. So a more recent choice. Okay.
Oh, all of mine are more recent. I've
Really?
been, yeah.
So you're of the opinion they've gotten better at making video games.
Abso-fucking-lutely. It is crazy when people pretend that video games were better in the past. They were good in the past. What you're saying when you say they're better in the past is you're saying that they're good and people need to recognize that. I recognize that, but they're better now.
Yeah.
They just got better.
Because here's the thing, is like video games now are being made by people our age and younger and a little older
playing video games.
That grew up playing video games. Yeah, that remembered what worked about certain games and remembered what fucking pissed them off about other games. Like,
and Minecraft is kind of the exact exploration of that.
Right.
It is lo-fi. It is fucking, 8-bit looking. But it also gives you the opportunity to create video games within the game.
You've told me a little bit about it, and I just know a little bit about it, third person, because I've never played it. But it seems like one of those things that if I allowed myself to start playing,
you'd get obsessed.
I would get fucking obsessed, dude.
You would, absolutely. It's something Dan Harmon talked about a lot on Harmontown, that he would not get much done in trying to write, say, Rick and Morty or Community because he'd be playing Minecraft.
Wow.
It is the perfect exploration for the Lego kid. Like, if you grew up with Lego,
Legos, yeah,
if you grew up with Lego, it is a video game Lego. Like, fucking nails it.
That sounds very fucking appealing.
Yeah. What's your number 5, Ben?
All right, my number 5 is one here that has made a huge impact on me from my early days as a Ute, looking at pictures of this game in Nintendo Power. Had one of the main characters from the game on the cover of the issue. I can still see it in my mind, clear as day. I read about it. I read the premise of the game. It sounded unlike anything that I'd ever seen before, played before, anything like that. And I remember looking through this issue of Nintendo Power and seeing the character designs that looked like comic book characters that were on the screen that were like fighting and stuff, and they all had their unique styles and special
I
moves.
see where you're going.
Oh yeah, dude. And plus, I had a very big interest in martial arts and stuff like that I was not able to pursue as a kid. My parents thought that would be a bad thing to do for whatever fucking reason, so I didn't get to do martial arts as a kid. But whenever I went over to my friend Shannon's house and she told me that her brother had just gotten Street Fighter II for Super Nintendo, I think that my heart skipped a beat. And I went in there and I played the game, and this is just the kind of fucking geek I was as a kid and still am to this day, man. Like, I picked up the game and I already knew how to do the special moves and stuff because I'd read about it in Nintendo Power.
Same.
Memorized move lists off of games that I wasn't playing.
Move lists was very, like, hip in the 90s if you were in middle school.
See, because I was homeschooled, I didn't know that. So
it was.
I was
you were on the level, dude. Everybody else in middle school would have been like, yes, that guy knows what's up.
That bowl cut kid.
He knows how to fight Reptile. Like,
yeah. Dude, the whole Street Fighter II franchise, I'm not going to say Street Fighter II, The World Warrior. I'm not going to say that that's the best one. I'm going to say of the entire franchise, probably Street Fighter II Turbo is the one that I think is the most balanced and playable. I think that every character in that game is so perfectly balanced that you can beat ass with any character in that game.
Sure, yeah.
And I devoted thousands of hours of my life to beating ass in that game.
Yeah.
but you know, anything in the 2 franchise, whether that be Street Fighter Alpha 2, I think Street Fighter Alpha 2 is a fucking incredible game. Not as balanced, but added in a lot of cool gameplay elements and stuff like that. And also, too, I'll add to it that, you know, as we know, a lot of these old school games and stuff that we played back then were so memorization heavy. It was all about memorizing patterns, memorizing moves and stuff like that, that I do think that it aided my memorization skills that I've used as a musician. I think it aided my hand-eye coordination. And even in Street Fighter and stuff like that, when you're doing combos and things like this, there's a rhythm to it. And I'm not talking even just a musical rhythm. I'm talking like, you have to have the muscle memory to input those commands in the right order. And I think that's something that has benefited me the rest of my life, even not playing video games.
Here's the thing. Just from my experience with musicians, I know a few, they love fighting games.
Oh, yeah.
I don't. I hate them.
Do ya?
I grew up playing Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and Tekken and all sorts of other fighting games, but I never liked them.
Word.
And I think it is that. I think what you're talking about is exactly the problem I have. Like, I am not good with that muscle memory bit. I need it to be so open. Like, I guess the one fighting game that I do love, and the only one that I put on my possibility list was Punch Out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, but
like original or Super Punch Out.
That was my argument with myself, was which is better, and it's Super Punch Out. Super Punch Out is better.
It's more fun, man. It's more fun to play.
It's so fucking good, but it's also just like, you know, as I said, I'm looking for escapism in my games, and I really don't actually want them to be too difficult. I want the experience to be the story and me going through it.
Yeah.
I want it to be difficult enough that I'm like challenged. But it's a problem I have where like I am too competitive, that like games that are competitive, like say fighting games, or I even have on my possibility list Modern Warfare. Like I used to play a lot of first person shooters in multiplayer, and I was a bad person when I did it.
I hear that. They can bring out some ugly sides of people. Yeah.
I was a very hateful person when I did it, and when I recognized it, I stopped. I was just like, no more. I can't play those games. So games that are too competitive for me just aren't fun. So I love Street Fighter, with you on that one, but it wasn't on my list. Here is what is on my list that is fighting, and about a bit of muscle memory and a bit of that like quick button pushing, but is also different in a large way. That is Assassin's Creed, the series.
Again, a series I've never played before, but I know I would love.
You absolutely would. You would love it because it does incorporate the muscle memory sort of elements, but it also adds in like deep story and good history bits. I know, like, I mean, it's funny to say, like, if somebody learned their history from Assassin's Creed, they obviously would be way off, but it's also like they know more history than most people. Like, the history bits of Assassin's Creed are pretty strong, and like if you're like a history nerd, they can kind of hit those elements.
I get it, man. And that's always been like an element of video games that I think even back in the old school days, people didn't really recognize. Because I'll tell you this, man, the reason why fucking 8-year-old Ben Eller could find Brazil on a map is because that's where Blanca was from.
Oh,
honestly.
Same, dude. Yeah, same. That the fucking video games taught me so much.
A ton, yeah.
Regarding Assassin's Creed, you could also put in the Batman Arkham series here. It just really depends on which series you like more, but they kind of have the same flow and the same like way of exploring the character, but it's also like, well, the Batman Arkham City series is exploring Batman.
Yeah,
so
yeah, which is badass,
that's cool.
Totally.
Yeah. Like,
I think something about Assassin's Creed that I would really enjoy too is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what I understand, there's very much like a Metal Gear Solid element of being stealthy with your kills and stuff. It's not just run around and kill people. It's problem-solving shit that I love about Metal Gear Solid. That's exactly
me. Like, that is exactly, like, actually, I think my most toxic element when I'm playing first-person shooters and multiplayer is my desire to be stealthy and to camp. Like, people hate that, but my only way of seeing a game where you're trying to kill other people is I have to be as safe as possible.
Yeah, playing the long game.
Yeah, I'm the worst when it comes to that. But when it comes to games like Assassin's Creed or the Batman Arkham games, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. So, and also Dishonored. That's a game I think you would love.
I don't know that one. Never heard of it.
Oh, dude, that's a dope one. Yeah. Anyway. What else you got on your list, Ben?
All right, number 4 for me, and this is gonna sound like I'm setting up a theme here because it's another fighter, but it's the last fighting game I have on my list because, you know, when I was a kid and we were in the 2D sprite-based era, Street Fighter 2 did everything that I just talked about in the last thing, that took my love of martial arts and combined it with crazy comic booky special moves and fireballs and backflips and shit like this. But whenever I discovered the Tekken franchise, especially Tekken 3 for PlayStation, it was like, dude, it was like going from cocaine to fucking crack cocaine.
You were all like Eddie Gordo.
Yeah, dude. Actually, I was never much of an Eddie player. I was just a button masher player right there.
Yeah.
But, dude, you can damn well bet I would grab King and I would hit you with all of those combination throws and stuff like that because the level of intense memorization that you had to do to play Tekken,
it was the worst.
Dude, it's every bit as intense as like memorizing every different fucking scale pattern on guitar. It makes sense that like I went from playing Tekken to playing guitar, honestly.
Obviously, yes.
It is as deep and demanding of the player in terms of memorization. Those games, dude, are fucking amazing, and I have sunk so much time into them, so much time into them. And you know, it's just also cool because you do get little snapshots of what some of these fighting styles, real life fighting styles, are really like, while also having some fun with some weird supernatural shit and demons and monsters and ogres and all that kind of shit. But man, I have put so much of my life into those games. It's ridiculous, and again, it's just elevated Street Fighter in a lot of ways.
Yeah. That everything you just said is why I don't like that game.
I get it.
Like, I also get why you like it. Like, there's very much this, like, desire to be able to control something that seems chaotic. That is, like, I just don't have it, but the people that do, it's like, I don't know how you do it.
Well, that's the thing, too, man, is like now, you know, on this side of life where video games are more of just like a fun occasional diversion for me, not like my main pursuit or main hobby, whenever I, think about picking up a new game, or I even, go out and maybe buy a new game or something like that, and start trying to look at those move sets and being like, I need to go to practice mode and spend about an hour getting this 10-hit combo down. I'm like, yeah, but why? Like, why would I want to do that? It's weird because I've kind of been on both sides of it.
Yeah. That is kind of my feeling about fighting games, is just like, well, what do I get from it?
Yeah.
Like, in the end, what is coming out of it? And that's why my top 5 is all games that just reward me for existing, basically.
That's
I don't
the thing, man. Yeah, it's like, because nowadays when I look at like, well, why would I put all that work into doing that? The answer would be for entering tournaments and winning money and shit like this. When I was a kid, it was so I could do it.
Yeah, to accomplish something, to show yourself you could, like that. Yeah.
But, now that I'm an old fuck, it's like, well, it has to produce something of value. And it's like, it used to not. It used to just be, well, I can't do it now, and it'd be cool if I could. Which, honestly, is kind of the way that I play guitar now, too, where it's like, well, I don't really need to learn this, but it'd be cool if I could. So I guess I'm still doing the same thing, but in different fields.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to give you a few games that I think you could enter real easy. And not have to, dedicate your life to. I think my entire top 4 is games that, 1, will change your life by playing them, but 2, will not change your life in a way that makes it harder.
Okay.
And this was a tough choice of Rockstar game, basically. I had to choose between GTA and Red Dead Redemption. And that's a hard choice for me because I love Westerns.
I've played both of those.
GTA 5 is one of the best games ever made.
GTA 5. So the last GTA I played was with my buddy Josh Rogers, old JR. We spent a lot of time playing Vice City whenever that came out. That entire era of like Vice City plus Chappelle Show, that was just a fucking great time to hang out with your friends. I'll tell you that. But I've not really played any of them since then, so I assume I'm missing out, right?
Yeah. 4 is fucking awesome. Like, look, the game you've played is great. I am not, gonna downgrade that at all. But 4 is gonna blow your mind, and 5 is gonna, make you give up your left leg to just play it. It is so deep. The characters are so good. There are moments that will make you more uncomfortable than you've ever been. It is more uncomfortable than any horror movie I've ever seen, but it's also deeper and more rewarding than any game that I've played that involves shooting people. A lot of people hate the driving in GTA 4 and 5. I love it. It reminds me a lot of Need for Speed, which works for me. So I love that game in particular. You really should hopefully pick it up at some point, because GTA 6 will come out, I don't know, in the next decade at some point and probably be amazing, or probably be only multiplayer and fucking suck, because every game that is predominantly multiplayer sucks. Hey, make single player games, everybody who makes games.
Yeah, no shit.
What you got, Ben? What's next?
All right, next, number 3 on my list. This is the newest thing that is on my list, which just dates me terribly. But again, this is one of those game series that I got into after, entering musician era of my life, that I could pick up and play some, put down, work the rest of the day, come back later, play a little bit more. And you want to talk about becoming obsessed. I've talked about this game a couple times on the podcast before, because at the height of my Katamari obsession, it was the first thing that I would do in the morning, and it was the last thing I'd do at night, and I would fucking dream about it. I would dream about
those
fucking
are the
rolling
best
stuff up on my ball.
Right.
Those games, dude, I don't know what it is. There is something in my brain that is just hardwired to really enjoy that shit. I think it's the kind of thing, man, where everybody finds those games that flip boxes in their mind where, clearly I was craving something that involved massive amounts of memorization and precise timing and stuff like that when I was playing games like Ninja Gaiden when I was a kid and getting into Street Fighter and stuff like that. Like that ticked some box in my brain that was just like, oh yeah, you're into this shit. You like brunettes and you like memorizing stuff, And whenever I started playing Katamari, it was almost just like, hey, remember how when you were a little kid, you were OCD as fuck? Because when I was a little kid, dude, I was, crazy fucking OCD, which is something I've beaten, which is why I'm a slob now. But now there's something about the Katamari games that just tick that box in my head that's just like, well, you have to grow this thing. You roll a ball around a little fucking environment, and you have to grow this thing progressively. You get small things that grow into bigger things, then you can pick up bigger things. But then you have to get it this big by the time period is over. And holy shit, man, there's something about those games that just burrows into my psyche, as well as just the fucking awesome soundtrack that's on all those games. I'm just gonna say Katamari as a series. There's not one in particular, but like Katamari Damacy, I think, is the one that really first
that's
hooked
the big
me.
one. Yeah.
Oh my god, dude! But then also too, just like the hyper fucking weird turbo Japanese storyline parts crack me the fuck up, and I'll like quote lines from that shit all the time, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. And usually, I don't even remember where it came from.
Yeah.
Oh man! So if you ever hear me say something like "a pencil long," that makes no sense, and you're like, are you having a stroke? No, I'm probably quoting Katamari lines for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Love that shit. I'm obsessed.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm a simp for an RPG, and an open world RPG is my shit. And
oh, yes.
an open world RPG with an amazing story and great developing of levels and things like that.
Count me in.
It was hard to choose which is 2 and 1. I'll just go ahead and lay down.
Same with mine.
Elder Scrolls is number 2.
Ooh, I've heard you talk a lot about Elder Scrolls, and again, that's a series I have not touched.
You're missing everything. What are you doing? Like Elder Scrolls, like from Morrowind to fucking Oblivion to Skyrim, and like hopefully Part 6 will really nail it too. Those are some of the best games ever made. Like,
goddamn, I've always heard.
I still like the music, the environment, the characters, everything about those games is just so deep and rich, and then the lore is deeper and richer than any lore in any game ever.
Well, there's like whole books you can read in the game, right? Yes, you can just pick up
books and read books, and the books tell you shit that is not like, it's not like, oh, also this is how things are. It's like in a poetic verse, suddenly you're reading a book and you're like, oh, why does it mention that particular Daedra? And then you read another book and you're like, oh, it's referencing that other book. What is going on? Like, there's just so much depth to it.
Damn, dude.
Like, so many radiant quests and things that, like, change by you, like, making choices and stuff. This game, Silent Hill, is kind of one of those early versions of, like, several endings, and the choices you make change things and stuff. Like, the Elder Scrolls games are just the perfect encapsulation of what would it be like if my brain was put into this insane world with so many goddamn mythologies you could not possibly comprehend it all, but It's also so easy to just start playing the game. Like, you just pick it up immediately. Everything is like so right. Everything feels right when you're doing it. Archery, hitting people with swords, hitting people with axes, shield bashing, whatever. All of that just feels perfect. It's a great game.
I bet that it's one of those things that if I started, I would get just down the fucking rabbit hole.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls Skyrim is probably the game I have the most hours in, and it's an embarrassing number that is over 500.
I believe it. No, I totally believe it. I mean, dude, I'm a fucking RPG guy too, as you're gonna see on the next installment of my list here.
What
so
you got?
I totally fucking get it. And if I just vanish one day and nobody hears from me, it's probably because I've started playing those fucking games. Okay, number 2 on my list is another one that is just a pinnacle of my teenage years.
Okay.
You know, like a lot of these on my list kind of come from around this time period, I guess, where games were starting to be taken a little bit more seriously, when things were getting, you know, technologically to the point where we could have things that were more cinematic, like Metal Gear Solid and stuff, and the visions of the creators of these games could be realized in a way that was far beyond the 8-bit sprites of yesteryear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of on a roll here. I'm kind of painting a picture, aren't I?
Let's hear it.
Final Fantasy VII.
Fuck.
Dude, whenever that game came out on PlayStation...
It was insane, yeah.
And it was one of the most hyped games of all time. Some of the biggest ad campaigns ever. I think it was one of the first times I remember seeing, like, you know, ads for a video game during, like, TGIF. Like, big, like, ABC TV, prime time. They're advertising a video game?
Mm-hmm.
What? Are they taking this seriously now?
Not the mama. Commercial. Final Fantasy VII.
Final Fantasy fucking 7, man.
Did I do that? Commercial. Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, dude, it's like that was when games started getting a little bit more grown up. Like, I remember being completely shocked that there was, like, profanity and stuff in the game that used to not really be a thing, and there was some really, really, really dark elements to the storyline in that. And I'll tell you, okay, so whenever I got the game and we started playing it and started realizing that there was, like, a lot more kind of adult overtones in this, you gotta think, in the super mega conservative household that I grew up in, like, if my mom fucking saw that stuff, like, that game would be returned, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So myself and, again, Josh Rogers, second time he's come up on this list,
Old JR.
Me and Josh spent an entire summer playing through that game.
Yeah.
An entire summer, just from start to finish, playing through that. And we played through the first maybe hour or two of the game probably at least 15 times that summer because I had a Nyko memory card. It was like a shitty third-party peripheral.
Oh, no.
Again, things I don't miss. Like, back in the day, third parties would put out peripherals for systems that didn't fucking work.
The worst.
That's not really a thing anymore. But
it
back
probably
then,
is, but not as
honestly.
rampant as it was, yeah.
Right? But we had a Nyko memory card, and that's all that I had. And, of course, I couldn't afford a new one. I couldn't ask for a new $30 memory card so I could save my game. So we played through the first, hour or two of that game a million times, and then finally got a new memory card and spent the rest of the summer playing through that and, traveling outside of Midgar, fucking raising chocobos, getting Knights of the Round. Yeah. And also, like hiding or getting past the really vulgar parts whenever mom would walk in the room or whatever. It was just really one of those moments where, how we've talked about on the show before, like whenever you find bands that you listen to but your parents don't, or you find things that you like but your parents wouldn't approve of.
It's something,
it's so unique. Transformative.
Yeah, it's like you're making your own decisions.
Yeah, exactly. This game was absolutely like that for me. And dude, even to this day, it's like when I hear the soundtrack to that game, because the soundtrack is fucking incredible. Such a good soundtrack. I mean, it's like I can picture exactly where I was and how old I was and what I had for dinner that night and how my bowl cup felt when I heard it the first time. That game, dude, I have put so fucking many hours into, and I've played through it multiple times. I've maxed out the clock. I've maxed out all my characters' stats. I've gotten every master materia. I've beaten, of course, all the ruby and emerald weapons and all that stuff. Gotten everybody's final weapon.
And that final battle is still 2 hours long?
Well, it is if you keep using Knights of the Round over and over and over, Dude, it's just amazing. It is just amazing. That's one of those games that I will always fucking have the biggest feels for. And I know that, like, okay, if you're somebody that was born around the time period that I was in, like, the mid-'80s, you're supposed to say Final Fantasy VII or Chrono Trigger. I know that a lot of people are like,
Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII, or, Secret of Mana. Like, those
Secret
are all
Mana,
different games.
That's an honorable mention to me. That's
honorable mention,
on my list.
Absolutely one of the best
fucking
Super
amazing.
Nintendo games out
and
there.
And again, soundtrack. Holy shit, the soundtrack
Goddamn,
on Secret
it's gorgeous.
of Mana.
Yeah.
So good. Chrono Trigger, I never really played.
Oh, really?
I have it for like Nintendo DS, and I've played a little bit of it, and I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Oh, I've heard it's fucking amazing. Same for Final Fantasy 3. That's the other one you're supposed to say, but
yeah. Oh, I love
Final Fantasy 6 in Japan.
Yeah.
You know, I never really played it either. I had friends that played it, but I never really had a copy of it myself. So that's why I don't really know.
5 and
7
6.
is the thing.
5 and 6, the Japanese versions, both great fucking games.
I've heard, man.
I other honorable mentions I'm just gonna throw out there real quick and not say much about.
Yeah.
Borderlands, Warcraft, Fable, Mass Effect, BioShock. Love all those.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, one that I totally had forgot about until we actually started talking about it here. Because, like, whenever I made my list, I literally just put down the first 5 things I thought about. Because I was like, these are probably the things I like the most. But one I happened to think about while we were doing this, dude, fucking Twisted Metal 2. The amount of time
I spent a lot of time playing that game.
Oh my god, man. Dude, that was one of the first games on PlayStation that had like a great deathmatch mode that wasn't plagued by
the battle
slowdown
mode
and shit.
Changed everything because like the Mario Kart like balloon mode wasn't as good at all. Like it did not hit the same. Yeah,
and the thing with Twisted Metal 2 is that, you know, you can look at my other things I mentioned here and figure out why I liked it so much. It's like it had racing game elements. It had fighting game elements.
Yeah, it really just threw that all together.
Yeah, it had like the secret hidden moves like fighting games, like for the, you know, ice ball and shit like that. But it also had like that weird gritty artwork and like that fucked up world and like really strange characters and stuff. Like it was just gritty and dirty and comic booky and fun, and dude, fucking blowing up the Eiffel Tower and all that stuff. God damn.
Yes, that's
sick
the best.
Soundtrack too, man. I spent so fucking much time on that game as a kid. Again, we could rattle off honorable mentions all fucking day.
Hell yeah, but let's get to number one.
Numero uno.
As I said, my number one or number two was kind of interchangeable, and I'm a total Bethesda simp, I guess. But Fallout, fucking and specifically Fallout New Vegas. I think Fallout New Vegas is one of the best. I guess that makes me less of a Bethesda simp, but the fucking balls of Fallout to be set in an alternate future where the 1950s aesthetic was the height of aesthetic.
Yeah. So it's just a cool starting point right away.
What? Yeah, and then like you're walking around listening to these songs from the 20s to the 50s. You're in an entirely open world where everything has gone to shit, which is something that young Steven fantasized about because of Omega Man and because of you know, every post-apocalyptic movie. Just the idea like, oh, I could just go into any house or any store and take whatever and do whatever. Like turning that concept into a game and then playing out the like full logic of that, like what would happen. God,
and again, that's what you get when, like we said earlier, when you have people that grew up playing video games, and then they start making video games. That's what you get. I remember one of the first times I felt that feeling was, and this is by no means like a great game or anything like that, but it had a good deathmatch mode that we used to play all the time. The Red Faction series, it's like a first-person shooter. You could like blow up anything. Like if you're in a building, you can fucking blow it up. Blow a hole through the wall if you want to get out. You got a rocket launcher?
Great.
Put a hole in the wall.
That should be part of every video game. But I understand why it's not. It's a lot of memory. But god damn, it's so cool. The idea that like everything you do in world has impact.
Yeah, dude. And that's something that, like, as a kid playing Doom and stuff like that, you're like, well, fuck, I got an RPG. Why can't I just blow my way out of this room? So then whenever another person that played that game and thought that made their game, they're like, well, I'm going to be able to blow a hole through the wall so I can get out.
Obviously. I got an RPG. Why wouldn't I?
So that game scratches a lot of those itches for you, where you're just like, why can't I just explore everything and go in all these buildings and shit?
Fallout is so gorgeous, too. I mean, Skyrim is gorgeous. Like, that, the game, seriously, Skyrim has moments where you will just pause and be in awe of the surrounding environment. Fallout has that exact same effect in a negative way, in the way that I actually love things, where it's like I feel sad playing it, but I also feel happy that I'm sad about playing it.
Wow, I know exactly the feeling you're talking about. That's how I feel when I think about Final Fantasy VII. Same deal.
Yes, exactly. So it nails exactly what you want, where it makes you have so many feelings, where like just playing the game is, it's so much and then not enough. Like I never feel like anxiety about playing it. I want to play it, but then when I do play it, I feel so much anxiety about what's happening in the game, but I'm also loving it. It's a real weird feeling, but I love it so much.
Wow. Yeah, I need to play those. Those are games that, like, it seems like anytime I talk to somebody who's into gaming from this side of the millennium and they find out about the stuff that I've liked in video games of the past, they're like, well, you've played Fallout, right? And it's like, no, I haven't. I know that I would, man. One day, I've always said, man.
One of these days.
Yeah, it's like I will fucking play guitar and make music long enough that I don't have to work as much and teach as much and stuff like that. That way I can play video games. I've said that for years, and I feel like I'm getting close. I'm getting close.
Yeah.
And, you've listened to a few episodes of this show, Steve. You've been on a couple of them. You probably ought to know it's coming, because when you combine the 2D open map gameplay of Metroid and Super Metroid being one of my other favorite games ever.
Right.
And you add in a heavy dash of RPG elements with armor and weapons and spells and hit points and magic points and stuff. And you add in some goddamn Draculas.
Yeah,
vampires,
put a Dracula in there.
And you also add in the greatest video game soundtrack of all time.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you end up with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. You end up with something that scratches every itch in my mind.
Yeah.
That game and the level of obsession that I have for that game is insane. We talked about it probably most recently whenever we had Zach Householder from Whitechapel on the show, and we were talking about him and I playing that on the Whitechapel tour bus while we were out on the road together, and he was like, yeah, it was really kind of weird how you have every candle drop memorized in that game. Where, like, Zach would be playing the game, and I'd be like, hey, hit that candle. There's a $350 money bag in it. So like, hey, you need the axe you're going to get from that for this next boss battle. Go ahead and get that. I don't know what the deal is. That game is burrowed into my brain and my just identity like nothing else. It's insane. I will play it again at the drop of a hat. I'm always wanting to play it again. I can't get tired of it.
It's one of the most beautiful things about a game.
Yes.
Like, when you know it so intimately that not only are you playing the game, but, like, you're experiencing it. Like, you're really part of it. You know it so intimately that you're using the game itself to explore the game. It's exactly what you want out of a good game. Is to just be so immersed in it that it's all that matters while you're doing it.
And the thing about it is, too, is when you look at the era that it came out, this is post Super Mario 64, where everything was going 3D, everything was going all polygons, even though the hardware wasn't really ready for it. Everybody was going that way because it was the new thing. It's exactly like what we see in CGI
was kind of the worst.
Movies.
Yeah, that was kind of the worst of the like console wars. Was just like the best graphics were the best, and it's just like, well, no.
What about the game though? Is the game any good?
The game matters. It doesn't matter what it looks like.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, at that time, especially as young people, we're also infatuated with finding the game with the greatest graphics. Or, oh man, this game has even better graphics than the last game, more polygons on screen or whatever.
Yeah.
That the balls that it took of this team to put out a game where they're just like, no, this is just going to be 2D hieroglyphic style graphics, but with the best gameplay and the tightest controls, and it's like 2D gameplay at its highest form. And just because it's using a graphic system that is quote-unquote dated doesn't make it any less good. I feel like they did that game. It got widely ignored because it wasn't 3D. And then it wouldn't be until, fucking 20 years later that we have phone games like Angry Birds and shit like this that are
Right.
showing you like, oh, just because it's 2D doesn't mean it sucks. Right. And so the balls that it took of them to put this game out during this time period where the next and best and brightest and most 3D was all that anybody cared about. And they were like, no, we want to make the best. Well, there wasn't even the term Metroidvania game back then, but they're going to make the best Metroidvania game ever. I mean, it fucking is half of the genre definition. Symphony of the Night is the fucking best, and goddamn that soundtrack, man.
It's so good.
The soundtrack is a 10 out of 10, man. I listen to it constantly. I'm always just wanting to replay the game. I'm always watching like people's YouTube videos about it and stuff, and seeing other like weird glitches and weird random item drops that people get in the game, because I feel like even after I'd been playing that game for 10 or 15 years, then you started finding out about like, wait, there's this thing called the Chrysagram that you can get in the inverted library.
Right.
And it's like a rare drop from the little, what's it called, Shmoo or whatever, the little ghost thing that flies on screen. And it's like, people are still finding new weird shit that's hidden in that game.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely incredible and keeps me obsessed.
Yeah. Fucking solid top 5.
I think so.
It's crazy. We didn't talk about this beforehand, that
A lot of
we
variety.
weren't even close like to the same top 5.
No,
We just had
no overlap.
entirely different. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, definitely, man. We love some video games, man. I'm excited just to sit down and play some video games and stuff. I really want to sit down and play some more Hollow Knight. You remember earlier this year I started playing
Yeah, you
Hollow
were
Knight
talking
on the
about it.
Switch.
Uh-huh.
I put it down for a while because I got busy, and it hasn't been part of my normal routine, so I've not played it in a while, but I'd like to get back into that and explore some of the other new games and stuff. So if there's some games that we should be checking out, let us know about them over on the Facebook group, and also be sure to drop your top 5. I'd love to hear your alls.
I know we're missing a lot. I mean, God of War.
I love it. Uncharted.
Stuff
Holy
like that.
fuck.
Uncharted, etc. You know what? The thing is, and well, let's just move right into Silent Hill. I've never owned a PlayStation.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Really?
Growing up, I had a cousin who had a PlayStation. Then I had a roommate who had a PlayStation 2 and then a PlayStation 3. I have never personally owned one. I've played PlayStation games, but they, just aren't a huge element of my gaming life, which from studying Silent Hill a bit for this movie, I think I'm missing out a lot. I'm missing
There's a lot of good
so
stuff.
much. Yeah. Hey, Ben,
Hey, Steve.
are you looking for the ultimate stocking stuffer for this holiday season?
I sure am. What I gonna stuff that thing with?
Well, Ben, look no further, because our sponsors, Manscaped, have the tools to make you win this year's stocking stuffer or white elephant competition.
Oh my God, they got the tools that you need for your tools.
That's right.
It's tool time.
It's tool time with Manscaped.
I don't think so, Tim. I think so, Tim. I'm pretty sure, Tim.
You see, Manscaped is the only brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene products. And great news, Ben. This is for all our European, Canadian, and Australian listeners. Manscaped just released their products across your vast countries.
Holy wow. This is gonna be a globe covered in shiny, clean globes.
And I know some of you out there thinking, it's a crazy old time. I don't even get out ever. Why do I need to manscape? Let me tell you this. When you look good, you feel good. And when your boys look good, boy, do they feel good. I'll tell you that.
You're doggone right. You're doggone right, Steve. Just because you're in quarantine don't mean you don't need to be clean, y'all. But, Steve, let me let you in on a little secret here, because I know we got a lot of listeners on the show here that are saying, but, Ben, but, Steve, I ain't got no balls of my own. I don't need this manscaping. Let me tell you what, ladies, this can be for you, too, because I'm going to tell you what, you can get this thing and take advantage of using that up before somebody creates Womanscaped and starts charging you 3 times as much for the same stuff. Y'all know how this works.
Listen to me, Dead and Lovelies. Manscaped is forever changing the grooming game with their Perfect Package 3.0. What's in there? You get the Lawnmower 3.0 for lawn mowing your nards area. It's skin safe. I used it. No tugs, no nicks. I enjoyed it. You can even create a little less mess by using that thing in the shower or getting one of those Magic Mat disposable shaving mats they got. Catch all that hair as it drops. And let's not forget about the Crop Preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant. Do what? And moisturizer. This is amazing. You're putting deodorant on your armpits. Get some deodorant for your balls. What else are you going to get in that Perfect Package 3.0? Some anti-chafing performance boxer briefs. I don't know how they've done it. It's time to get this Perfect Package 3.0. Get clean like Mean Gene's bald head. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DEAD20. That's DEAD20 at manscaped.com.
So this holiday season, be sure to trim the tree and trim up your balls with Manscaped.
Your balls will thank you.
And so will the people that love your balls.
I've not had as much experience with Silent Hill, but I actually did play the first Silent Hill game a good bit because my cousin had it, and it was one of those things where it's kind of like, it's very unique in a lot of ways, but it was also, it had too many problems for me. I'm an open world, like, puzzle solving type of gamer, but it just had so many like maneuverability problems that I never got into the series.
Oh yeah, and that's something that's baked into those early survival horror games. And let's talk about that a little bit too, because whenever Resident Evil came out for PlayStation, I remember reading in the video game magazines like GamePro and PSM and stuff like that. PSM, such a huge fucking part of my childhood, by the way. Love that magazine.
PlayStation Monthly was awesome.
That's it, dude. Fuck yeah. You had the fucking deck cover stickers in the issues and stuff.
It was dope.
Oh my God. I love that magazine, man. But, you know, I remember reading about Biohazard. It was this crazy Japanese game that took inspiration from all these Romero movies. And I was like, who's Romero? Like, I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies. I didn't know anything about this stuff. So, weirdly, whenever the survival horror thing started becoming a genre of its own with games like Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2, which I spent tons of time playing, the weird thing is like, that was more of my introduction to horror than horror movies. Like,
wow.
I don't exactly even know how that was, but somehow playing those games was less bad than watching Dawn of the Dead, and it's like, man, those games are way more fucked up than Dawn of the Dead. Like, I don't really know exactly where the line was there, but I guess, you know, at the same time, that's just the old people stuff that I understand now. My mom didn't understand the difference. Well, I don't understand the difference of what's in movies and video games now. I don't know what the fuck's in these games, so I wouldn't know either.
I've said this before. I hate horror games. As someone who loves horror movies, I know that's weird. I'm not, like, I have too much anxiety to need to have anxiety for fun.
When you look at it that way,
it's not my thing. I'll never be into it. So, yeah, horror games have never been my thing. So, I mean, it's, okay. So, like, Fallout or, you know, several of the games I named will have these things where it's just like a horror side quest. I love that. Yeah. I love the idea that you can go into horror and escape it. Like, you can get away from it. There's other stuff in the game that isn't that. Horror games just don't hit me because that's all they are.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, maybe that's why I got into the Resident Evil games and stuff. And when I played Silent Hill, again, with Josh, I really enjoyed that too, because I hadn't watched any horror movies up to that point. So it was kind of like me being like, maybe this is what horror movies are like. Maybe this is what zombies are about. I don't know.
Yeah, you were hitting that basic need we all have to, I don't know what it is exactly. I guess it's not a basic need to be scared. Nobody wants to be scared. I guess we want our defenses tested from time to time. Like, that's the desire. Like, we want everything we defend as holy to be under attack. So we can either defend them or go like, oh, right, that's ridiculous. Like, there's some experience there that everyone seems to enjoy. Not everyone. Some people hate horror in general, but the majority of people seem to love this experience of having to deal with something that is out of the ordinary, but is still controllable.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's why people like roller coasters. It's like you want to...
Yeah.
And again, this is totally the brain observing itself, where it's like when you ride a roller coaster and all of your fear emotions go off in your subconscious, but your conscious brain is going, that's funny. My body is really alarmed right now, but I know this is tested and safe and I'm not going to die.
Right.
Like, there's just something fun about that second perspective that you get when you watch a horror movie or play a scary game where you're like, I'm feeling all my senses go off. All my lizard brain shit is telling me to run away, but I know my life isn't in danger. I think that there's just something about that experience that a lot of us crave.
Yeah, it's real nice to go into third person for a second, right? Yeah. Where it's just like, who's that down there, and why are they experiencing all these sort of things?
Right.
And Silent Hill kind of like the movie is nailing that video game feel of like, this is how you move in this particular video game.
It sure feels like a video game. You're right.
It sure does, but that's actually, it's like Achilles' heel is that it's trying so hard to be the video game that it forgets to be a movie.
Right, because that's the thing about the early survival horror games like Resident Evil and stuff, is because back then the hardware wouldn't allow for full 3D movement. They had to do these weird things with these pre-rendered backgrounds that were just pictures, and then you'd have a polygon-based character that would just walk around that picture, which led to some really bizarre, like, okay, I'm walking towards the camera, and then I'll walk close enough that the camera angle changes, and now I'm 30 feet away from the camera and walking to the left. Like, weird, inexplicable stuff that's just there to make you see the environment.
Right.
Because the hardware couldn't really handle you walking around it. This movie has a lot of those, which is weird because that's more of a Resident Evil thing, whereas Silent Hill had some full 3D stuff in it. Am I right?
It did. I mean, Silent
had some
Hill
pre-rendered stuff. I can't remember.
Yeah, Silent Hill was kind of like, I guess, criticized at its time for being 3 years after Resident Evil and trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it didn't exactly try to do the same thing. It is more horror than first-person shooter, which Resident Evil is more first-person shooter. So,
especially the later ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like the more Resident Evil got into it, the more they went into first-person shooter. The more Silent Hill got into it, the more they went into horror game. So there's some differences, but I mean, you're right. The feel is the same when we're talking about the first game. Like they're basically the same.
Yeah, and I played that first game a bit whenever it came out. Me and Josh sat around and played that one late at night many times and got really fucking freaked out. There was all these just like weird, nasty, fucking rusty, dilapidated buildings and stuff to explore and weird, nasty piles of gore and these disgusting enemies and stuff like that. And it really was a very, very effective game, and we played it quite a lot. But that's the last time that I played it, and that game came out like fucking 96.
Oh, it was
like, it was a long
21 years ago. It's a long time ago, or 23 years ago. Yeah, you're right, 96.
Holy shit! So then, even the fact that this movie came out that much later than a decade later is kind of weird, because by then my memory of what it was like playing that game had faded a bit, but I do seem to think that this really nails the feel of walking around in these foggy, snowy, ashy environments.
That's exactly the thing, is that it so perfectly nails the video game that's actually a problem. That's a
problem, yeah.
Yeah, it's not how movies work. You need to make it more like the movie. I get that Christoph Gans was a big fan of the series and really wanted to nail exactly how the series feels, but man, it just misses so many of the movie points. Like so many of the 3-act structure elements.
Sure, yeah.
That it really is just like level to level design. Like, what happens next? Oh, it's more fucked up than the previous level? Gotcha. Like,
yeah, explore this room, run from these monsters, fight this thing. Now what's next? Now there's little set piece. Now there's this flashback. Like, it's very video gamey to a fault. And here's the thing, though, is like, right now, especially this side of the 2020 or 2010s, where video gaming really became a multi-billion-dollar, everybody does it kind of industry.
Right.
2006 and before that was very different, where if there was a video game movie, if there was a video game that somebody picked up as a license to turn into a movie, say Super Mario Brothers, Street Fighter, or Mortal Kombat, exactly, that's the reaction, where it's just like, oh my God, like they completely fucking missed the mark. And you can tell the people that made the fucking Mario Brothers movie never played the game, never gave a shit about it.
Absolutely not. They did not care about that game at all. And that's actually
the problem with making a game into a movie.
Right. Okay, so like all of the top 5 I just named a bit ago, like I think about those being turned into a movie, and all I can think of is, well, the only way you could do it is to make it a story that isn't already in the series.
And then people get mad at that because it's not faithful to the game.
Exactly. And it's just like a real catch-22 when you try to make these adaptations of video games where the emotional attachment is the connection you have to it by pressing X or whatever. Like, whatever it is you do to actually be involved in it is why you love it. And a movie can't do that.
Yeah.
Ever.
Because honestly, like this movie, especially with its slightly over 2-hour runtime,
it's too long. Yeah,
dude, it's kind of like, would you rather watch this 2-hour movie or would you just like to play the game? Because the game is maybe 4 hours or so.
4 hours. It's a 4-hour walkthrough. Yeah,
yeah, and it'll make you like use your brain to solve puzzles and
you'll
stuff
learn
like
so
that.
much more than you do in the 2 hours about this town. Like,
yeah,
there's so much more to explore and find in just playing the game than watching the movie, which, I mean, again, is such a perfect adaptation of the game that's the problem.
Yeah,
like it so perfectly adapts exactly what you expect this game to be. A Silent Hill game is going to have all of these elements, and that's the problem. It needs to be a movie, not a game.
Well, I'll tell you the problem here, too. And a lot of this is just entirely based on the timeline in which we're reviewing this movie. When we live in a post-Favreau age, where we have seen our favorite comic book stories. I mean, the fucking Infinity Wars goes back to the 80s.
Yep.
And we have seen that realized and executed right to where it pays the right amount of homage to the comics that we know and love, but also expands on it and cleans up the story in ways that it needs to be. When you watch a movie like this and you're like, yeah, they didn't do it as good as that.
Right.
It's tough because you're instantly comparing it to the success stories that we've seen since this came out. But like when this came out, I remember me and Josh watching it being like, well, it did feel a lot like the game. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
we watched it whenever it came out. And I think we rented on Blockbuster, or from Blockbuster, I mean. And we did enjoy the fact that, wow, they actually kind of nailed the feel of the game. That's unusual because Mortal Kombat didn't feel that way. But now, like I said, post Favreau, you're just like, oh, okay, you can actually nail it and satisfy everything that the fans want to see and making it its own fun movie in itself.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to look at this and appreciate it, I think.
Yeah, it is. And that's the problem, is that looking back, like, honestly, comparing this to every other video game adaptation up to the point, this is probably the best video game adaptation that came out in 2006 and anything up to that point. But it's also just like,
what's the competition?
What's the competition? Like, the fact is that the Rotten Tomatoes, like, top video game adaptation movies, the top 4 are all from the past 2 years, 3 years.
Whoa, for real?
And I'll be honest, I've seen Detective Pikachu and I have seen Rampage, and they're right. Those movies are good movies that are based on licensed properties that are video games. Like, the thought you have to have going into it is, how do I make this a good movie, not how do I make this a good adaptation of the game?
Right. Yeah, because especially, too, to people that didn't play the game, like, my wife...
Who cares? Yeah.
Yeah, we were watching this, and she was just like, what the fuck is this about? Like, why is it ashy? Why is it foggy?
Exactly.
Like, why is the camera acting all weird like this? And I'm like, well, it's like the game. And it's like, well, if you didn't play the game,
yeah.
this is totally lost on you. And does it make a good movie? That's the biggest question you got to ask about this stuff.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that I think Christoph Gans directed the fuck out of this movie. It looks gorgeous. There are so many great shots in it and so many awesome moments that are a little like undercut by the 14-year-old CGI. But
oh yeah. Well, here's the crazy thing too about that 14-year-old CGI is, like, have you watched any of the behind the scenes, like, making of stuff on this?
No.
There's some stuff you can find on YouTube that shows you what some of the scenes looked like before they were touched up by 2006 CGI.
Right.
So, for example, like, whenever the mom and the cop encounter that, like, armless thing that, like, shoots the black acid at them.
Yeah. That's early.
I thought that was all CG. It's not. That is a person in, like, a latex suit.
Yeah.
That then they just went over and CG'd the fuck out of on top of it so that it looks all fake. But a lot of these scenes and creatures... There's an actual
person there.
Yeah. A lot of these scenes and creatures and stuff looked fine as they were. Like, they probably would have looked more grim and more effective
without the CG.
Yeah, but then they went in and made it look like a fucking video game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the mid-2000s. What are you going to do? That's exactly what you would do, despite the fact that it makes no sense looking forward. Like, if you were in 1999 and looking forward at it, you'd be like, that's a bad call. And in 2010, you'd be like, that's a bad call. But in 2006, you're like, oh, probably the best way to do it, right? Like,
right.
It's just this worst moment of CGI.
Yeah, it was the bowl cut phase for sure, man.
It was the worst.
bowl cut phase.
It just sucked for everything. And I mean, this movie, honestly, like, there are moments that look dated, but it does a real good job, I think, of, like, making the stuff that you see disturbing and not showing it for too long.
That's true. Also, yeah, there's some pretty good choices in that regard.
Yeah, there are also some moments where it does show things for too long, and they're just like the first time she runs into, like, the baby fire demon things. Like, they show them a little too long and a little too much, and it's like, well, they do look good enough, but you kind of over believed in them. Like, you put too much faith in them.
Yeah, I think so, man, because there's so many times in the movie where I feel like I should be feeling more tense for these characters that are in these situations, but I know nothing here is real.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Everything here feels smooth and soft. Nothing here feels like the rusted metal and corroded iron pipes that they're showing me on screen. Like, I'm like, they're not in danger. They're on a green screen. It's fucking fake. But then the thing is like I said, a lot of the environments are real. They built like 150 fucking sets for this, and then glossed it over and made it look like a goddamn video game. What the fuck?
I mean, it's just an era where that was too rampant. Like, this movie could have looked so much better and probably performed better as a franchise if they went all practical.
Oh, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt.
It already made double the original budget, which is probably not much over advertising budget as well, but, like, it is not on the same level as the Resident Evil movies in, like, the amount of money it made. I would say this is better than all the Resident Evil movies and still not good. Like,
I agree with that. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, the Resident Evil movies show you what it's like to not pay enough homage to the game.
Right.
Like,
And
those
still
movies
make
just feel like
over $1 billion.
Yeah, those movies just feel like fucking music videos. Like they are music videos with storyline every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect the fact that this movie took the source material so seriously. I mean, to the point of where like the director brought a big screen TV and a PlayStation 2 on the set so he could play scenes from the game.
So he could nail how it looked. Yeah. And that's
I respect
great.
that. Like the guy respected the source material. And we're not talking about like a 16-year-old that got to make a movie. We're talking about a full grown ass French man that got to make a movie. And he's like, this game, this is like art. This is life. This is the movie I am wanting to make. Like, I respect the fact that a grown-ass man took this seriously. Don't get me wrong.
Too. Yeah, he directed a segment in H.P. Lovecraft's Necronomicon. He directed Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows what he's doing. He really cared about these movies, and he, like, sent a video, like, interview to the people at Konami, just trying to, like, set their fears aside to let them, like, realize he might be able to adapt this series into something good. Because again, this is 2006. There are no good video game adaptations. None have existed. And by the way, after 2006, they still don't exist. But he tried to really be dedicated to the series itself and tried to make the movie the game. I mean, he failed in some ways, which is that he failed at making a movie that everybody would care about. Yeah. But he succeeded in a lot of ways in really capturing the feel of the game.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where you're just like, he failed. Well, but did he succeed at other things? Like, because it really does feel like the game. And I'll say, like, there for a brief time period when this came out, it probably was the best video game movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Ever. I mean, it's kind of like naming, like, this is the best fucking Filet-O-Fish sandwich I've ever had. You know, it's like, well, it's still not good, but it is better than the rest of them.
It's better than the rest, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they kind of nailed that bit. It, like, really, it's almost like an experiment of, like, well, how close,
far can we take it?
Yeah, how close to the game do you have to be? How far can you take the movie? Like, where can we be? Because the thing about a video game is that you're experiencing the events. Like, you're part of it. And a movie is not that. It never will be that. You cannot make a movie more immersive than any movie that's ever been made. Like, people have tried. They've tried to make the POV movie. They've tried to, like, plunge us into the characters. You can't. There's just a certain level at which people will say, like, I'm part of it, and then also reality is over here, and this is not that.
Right, yeah. There's a limit to storytelling.
Yeah, so the video game, like, the capturing of the video game elements is cool, but it's also just like, well, it doesn't work as a movie. So, like, we get Rhoda Mitchell, you know, running after her daughter and yelling her daughter's name a lot. And it's just like, it feels so much like a video game, but never feels like a movie.
Well, what about that scene in there where, like, the mom and the cop are together, and the mom had, like, jumped over some little thing, and the cop's like, here, grab a hold of this rope and swing over this way. It's just like,
it's the most video game moment.
Video game. Like, this isn't a good part of a movie. Why is this here?
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. I mean,
I want to start a drinking game, though, where you have to take a shot every time she says Sharon. Okay. Or another game where you take a shot every time she explains to someone, I'm her mom, my daughter is missing. Like, holy fuck. Yeah, is that all there is to her fucking character?
That's all there is to her character. It is so bland.
The character, dude, I'm glad you said bland, because, like, all over my notes I have bland mom, bland cop, bland dad. Like, they're just bland. There is nothing to these characters other than I'm her mother. My daughter is lost.
Yep.
That's it.
It is crazy to have the hottest S&M cop uniform ever, and also look at the character as bland.
Dude,
like,
what the fuck? Like, she's not a real cop, right? Like, she's either on
no
her way
way.
to or on the way back from a stripping job, for sure.
Yeah, and I bet it was hot. Like,
Yeah.
But then she had to pull somebody over? I don't know. What? It makes
Worst cop ever. Dude, like, she
very
is
little
so
sense.
immediately, like, shady and suspicious. Like, whenever the mom and Alyssa are at that gas station, her cop senses are tingling. She's like, there's something wrong here. And it's like, based on what?
Well, one time I knew a child, so
yeah. Well, but then even whenever she pulls the mom over and the mom like fucking floors it and tries to run away from the cop, is going to Silent Hill illegal? Is driving with your daughter somewhere illegal? Why did she run?
Okay, first off, all of the questions you just said are right. And number two, why is it when she ran from the cop and then got arrested, she was like, what was happening? And then also the same thing happened with Sean Bean, aka Sean Bond. Mm-hmm.
Sean Bond. It's one or the other, man. E-A-N. You get to pick one pronunciation of how you say it.
You can't
Bean
have
or Bean.
both.
That's
You
it.
can't be Sean Bean. You're Sean Bean or Sean Bond.
That's right.
The thing is that, like, I mean, his entire presence is shoehorned in, right? Like,
dude,
there's no reason for it.
And it literally is shoehorned in because originally the dad character was just supposed to bookend the movie. He was there at the start, he was there at the end, and somewhere along the way, somebody was like, "There's not a man in this movie. Needs more man in it.
It was
needs more men.
the folks
more
at
Sean Bean."
Konami
What the fuck?
had a problem with how many men weren't in the movie, and it's like, I wouldn't have noticed ever.
No.
Like, how would that be noticeable that all of the main characters were women? Like, okay.
Yeah.
So
and
what?
don't get me wrong, like Sean Bean,
he's great. I love
he
Sean Bean.
outacts everybody in this movie by a factor of 10. He's the best actor in the movie.
Yeah, he's
also,
great.
he doesn't die. What the hell?
It's amazing, dude. I watched the second movie and I was like, he didn't die immediately? What?
I've heard that second movie's really bad.
It's real terrible. Holy shit, don't watch it.
Really?
It's so bad. It's so bad.
So they basically like wrote more scenes in with Sean Bean's character because there wasn't enough fucking penis in the movie, I guess.
Right.
But here's the thing. All of those scenes with him investigating the past of his daughter before they adopted her and stuff like that are completely fucking pointless. You could cut all the scenes with him and
no need
Detective
for it.
Gucci?
Detective Gucci. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
You could cut all those out of the movie and there would be no difference. It honestly like reminded me of that part in the new Borat where he's like, I am a John Chevrolet. It's like, I don't know, American name, whatever.
Yeah. Detective Gucci makes no sense.
No. And here's the thing, man. Like, all of the scenes with him doing his investigation are rendered pointless because he never finds fucking anything out.
Yeah, what is he investigating?
Everything that he is attempting to find out, you find out in that like flashback sequence that we get later on about Alyssa and whatever her fucking name is. Yeah, like that entire flashback scene where she's burned as a witch and whatever. Like, we find out everything there is to know about her with that flashback scene, which is with the mom. Like, none of the Sean Bean stuff fucking matters to the story. Just cut it all out. Make the movie fucking shorter, for the love of God.
It would help to just cut that entire bit. Like, I mean, it's already cheap that at the end turns out everybody was dead.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Or in the upside down or whatever, I guess.
Right, but we don't need Sean Bean in bright light while they're in blue light in the same space. Like, we don't need that.
Yeah, like, there's parts that I like whenever it shows her running across the front of that building and he can kind of, like, feel that she's there, but they're separated by some dimensional plane. Like, that's kind of cool, but again, it just doesn't really add anything to the story for me. It doesn't really make it any better. Like, it's a cool element, but it doesn't make the story better, is how I would put it. No, it doesn't improve
anything. Yeah, you're right. I mean, who else we got? We got Alice Krige in this. She's the main villain, Krista Bella.
Yeah.
She was in Gretel and Hansel. She's the fucking best.
Yeah, I totally had forgotten that is her in that movie, because the whole movie, I was looking at her and I was like, I know her from something, and then I even looked at like her IMDb picture on like the main page of this movie, and I'm like, I recognize that picture from something else too, but I never like remembered to go through and check out what other movies she'd been in. But yeah, duh, she's the fucking witch in Gretel and Hansel. And she's awesome, but in my head, I had forgotten that she was in this, because in my head, Pyramid Head's the big bad of this movie, but he's actually not.
Exactly it. Like, he's the Leatherface of this movie, where it's like, he's not the big bad, he just exists in the world. Like, he's scary as fuck.
Oh, yeah. And again,
he's
that's
not the one, you know?
That's an element of sticking to the game model that I really appreciate that this did weirdly pull off in 2006. Like, when you look at the character of Pyramid Head from the games, and you're like, guy with big fucking cone mask head, he can't see out of it, he can't see where he's going, he's just a fucking huge guy with a pyramid on his head. Make that real. Like, that's not going to turn out well, right? But in this, actually, he looks pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a 5-piece makeup thing that they put on him that's made mostly out of cardboard, but they put some weight to it with like the darkening and shadowing. It really does feel metal the entire time.
It does.
Like, the way that, what's his name? Roberto Campanella. The way Roberto Campanella plays it is like, it is heavy. Even though it's not. Like, it's a real good job of being the Leatherface of this movie that doesn't exactly need a Leatherface, but is served by it, for sure.
And just the design of that character with this, you know, again, like, what is the purpose of this triangular helm that he's wearing? Like, there's no way that helps anything. It's just weird and, like, surreal, and I think dreamlike in a lot of ways. Like, that reminds me of some weird shit you'd have in a dream where it's like, well, that's really impractical, but it's fucking strange and it sticks out of my head. And he has this gigantic sword and shit. Like, it's actually pretty effective.
And the way he just drags it, and it's like a big effort to him to swing it. Like, I love that. That is very specific type of villainy that you need for a good villain.
Yeah, for a non-speaking villain,
Yeah, which is where, like, Krista Bella kind of fails, because she's basically Marcia Gay Harden in the Mist, but not good. Like, Marcia Gay Harden, I'm not saying Alice Krige is bad. I'm just saying the character is not written as deeply as a cult figure should be.
And I feel like she shows up so late in the movie, too.
Yes, exactly. She is guiding this cult that is like a central part of the movie. The
heart of everything, yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't show up for an hour. Yeah. It's like, ugh. And then when she does show up, it's like, God damn, she's so good, especially when they take her to the elevator to go down to the basement, and then, you know, she looks at the locket and sees that her daughter looks exactly like Alessa, and then calls her a witch. Like, there's that real quick moment where she just gives a nod that means beat Laurie Holden to death, which is brutal as fuck, but also, like, so well acted by her.
Yeah, because, like, at that point in the movie, you know, it was so hard to pinpoint exactly who the big bad in this narrative was, because you have the mom showing up to Silent Hill. There's the weird, like, cinder baby things. There's the weird armless thing. Then she meets, like, that witch lady that's like, oh, you must be bad because you seem really creepy and weird and try to throw me off a cliff. But nah, that's not the bad guy either.
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of takes so long to find that central, like, okay, what's at the heart of this here, that by the time you get there, you're just like, well, everything's fucked up. How bad is this person?
Yeah, it's very video gamey, where it's just like, everything is a progression, everything is a level, every boss is a mini boss. Like nothing coalesces to, okay, this is the big boss fight. Like if you're gonna stick to the video game style, there should be a final moment where they fight the big boss. Like, and so you spent this entire 2 hours dedicating to the game itself without giving the payoff.
Yeah, the excitement of here I am at the finale of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much influenced by the video games, also influenced by Uraseki Doji, which is a manga that is popular for being the manga that popularized tentacle rape.
Oh boy.
Yay! So that like final scene of barbed wire destruction, which is amazing. Like, one of the best elements of this movie is the final scene of barbed wire killing.
Fucking brutality. Like, oh my god, dude.
Alice Krieg gets bisected by barbed wire. It is amazing, and that is a reference back to Uraseki Doji, which is, I mean, like, go back and watch it, but also I'm not recommending it. It's gonna hurt your eyes, but it's gorgeous, and the music is amazing, which is exactly what this movie is. Right. It's gorgeous, and the music is amazing, and music is great. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, at the same time, at the end of the day, not so much. Yeah, that final kill with her getting cleft in twain by barbed wire is hyper brutal, and that is one thing that, you know, again, I watched the movie maybe in 2006, 2007, and going back and watching it now, 13, 14 years later, like, two things I did remember. I did remember that barbed wire kill, and I did remember a couple of the other kills from the movie, like Pyramid Head twisting the skin off of fucking Kimmy Schmidt Jr. and throwing it at that church door, dude. Like, I did remember that super, super clearly, because the way that he just like grabs her skin and twists amazing. It looks really visceral. It looks really real.
Fuck. And the fact that Radha Mitchell, like, early in the movie comes across this like cart full of human skins, and it just like blows past everything. Where it's I didn't
even notice it. Yeah,
she just looks at it and she's like, what? And then moves on. Like, it's her introduction into this world where she doesn't know what's happening, and then later she sees it like viscerally occur. And then he just throws it at the door as the doors close, and that blood just splashes in. God damn it, awesome. That is brutal and amazing and so good for a horror movie. Like, if the movie was that.
Yeah, if the movie was more of that, fuck yeah.
Yeah, for like 80 to 90 minutes instead of none of that for 2 hours. And then part of that for half a minute.
5 minutes or something. Yeah. Like, I totally agree, because that to me is like an iconic thing that shows you the director and stuff really knew what he was doing and knew how to show that too. Because like there's even some theater of the mind shit there where you see the skin twist, you hear the rip, and then you see the suit of skin thrown against the church door. And it's like, it never shows you a skinned person. It never shows you a flayed human being. It's kind of like, well, just let your mind kind of fill in the gaps there. Like, those are smart choices to make.
Yes.
Especially if a budget is concerned and stuff like that, but it just wasn't really enough of it, man.
No, it wasn't. And that's the problem is...
Although there was some other good kills and brutal moments in there too, man. That fucking janitor corpse in the bathroom stall... ECW as fuck, man. All that barbed wire being all strung up. Holy moly.
Yeah, that was the dude who molested Alessa, which is, again, like, this movie just keeps punching you in the gut over and over and expecting you to accept it. Like, I feel like most people watching this probably don't recognize that Colin is the guy who molests her, and then he's the guy who is bound by this barbed wire.
Yeah, in this projection of this world that Alessa has made based on the horrible things that happened to her.
And that's a fault of the movie, is that the movie doesn't bring you into the world in a way that works. Like, you never feel like you've entered a second world. Like, that's how movies have to introduce you into a second world, is just basically they bring you in and you feel comfortable, and then they're like, okay, also, and this movie doesn't do that. This movie is the okay also. Like, the movie starts with okay also, and you're like, okay, what? I don't know what's happening.
I also just think that this is more unfair representation of janitors in film. I feel like Dead and Lovely, we really need to start a hashtag not all janitors.
Yeah.
To clear the name of all the good sanitation workers in this country and beyond that are not diddlers, that are not molesters.
Dude, they just want to go to fucking work and clean and get their goddamn check. Like, leave them alone.
Sprinkle some sawdust on some puke and check out, man. Come on.
Yeah. Leave them alone. I mean, yeah, this movie does play into the old trope of janitors are creepy. Yeah, it is great though. That barbed wire.
Ooh, man, it looks fucking awesome.
And the way he crawls out and then touches the wall and it just turns into death. Like every one of the image scenes of this movie, like every time they're going for like visually striking, they nail it.
It works. Yeah, because like whenever the world transforms and you hear that air raid siren and it goes dark and you see like the paint peeling off the walls and floating up, although as if it was burning, but there's no fire there. Like, that's a hell of a fucking look, and that is extremely cool. Like, very visually striking. I totally will not remember the story of this or what it means, but I will remember some of those images for sure. They're very effective and just shows you that the director knows how to show stuff on film very competently.
Yeah, and he said earlier this year he wants to do another Silent Hill movie, and I'm thinking like, fuck yeah. Like, this is the
I'd let
person,
him do it again, yeah.
Yeah, this is the person I would want to do another Silent Hill movie. Like, he's had 14 years to think about it.
Yeah.
And 14 years of looking at other adaptations, seeing his own adaptation, and knowing ways to improve it. I think he could do it.
Yeah, I think that you're right, man. The storyline in this is strange. And again, it's also accurately video gamey because even as much as I love a lot of these like JRPGs and Japanese survival horror games, like as much as I love Final Fantasy VII, man, that storyline doesn't really fucking make any sense. And
no,
this movie is very much like that too, where you're like, there was a girl, which P.S. this is another secret witch movie, I guess. Like, turns into a secret witch movie like fucking Suspiria or any number of these other flicks that we've talked about. Secret witch movie, there's this girl that is fucking sacrificed and tormented and stuff, and her good side and her bad side split off, and it turns out these people adopted the good side of her, although why she's not 30 years older, I don't really know. Don't worry about it. Like, it just feels like a fucking JRPG storyline where it's just like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense, but okay.
Yeah, it also has, and this is like very much related to the remake culture of the early 2000s. It has a Ring vibe. It's very much like the Ring, especially the scene bean elements where he's like studying and researching and stuff. Yeah, like, there's so much where they're trying to copy other remakes of Japanese intellectual properties that it's interesting. Like, it's still nailing the feel of the movie, but it's also like, I don't know, like, what this movie is like, what is this? Like, thinking about it now, 15 years later, what is this movie?
Yeah.
It's so much a video game, but it's also like really trying to be a good horror movie, but it's missing both.
Kind of
but
both,
it's also,
yeah.
It's also like nailing the
Nailing
video
certain
game.
things.
Yeah, like a lot of video game adaptations are not hitting the levels this is, but it's not right for a movie. Like, it's just all over the place.
Well, I'll tell you this, too. In addition to that storyline just feeling like a, again, weirdly translated Japanese RPG survival horror game storyline, like, okay, I'll put it to you this way. As I was watching this movie, there were so many points in here where I was like, man, these characters don't act like people. Like, these characters act like everyone in this movie is sleepwalking. Where, like, nobody
it's
is
like
really...
a dream.
Yeah. It's like nobody's really as weirded out by this stuff as they should be.
Right.
Or their reactions to stuff are really delayed, or people are overly hostile or aggressive, or, like, people in this just don't act normal.
Right.
It feels very much like a dream or something like that, and it was pissing me off. And then I was like, why do I like that whenever Dario Argento does it? Like, what is it in my fucking brain
that you're like, if there's a chimp and you know, like, yeah.
Like, what is it in my brain that loves Phenomena but doesn't get this? And then what really hit me about this, man...
the embrace of the absurdity. Right?
That's
like,
kind of the thing.
Cool
There's like
it.
a built-in campiness and absurdity to those movies, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but like what really hit me this time while I was watching this movie, man, is like it finally hit me where I was like, this must be how other people feel when they watch Giallo movies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Where it's just like, oh, I feel foreign to this.
Yeah. Like,
no
this
matter
feels like
what.
It feels like it was written in one language, translated to another one, and then the actors were just reading the lines phonetically. Like, that's how a lot of the voiceovers, even in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, that game has some of the worst voiceovers ever, because it's clearly being read by people that don't speak English. They're probably just reading the lines phonetically. That was very common in games of that time period. This movie feels like that, only I know that all these people fucking speak English.
Yeah, I mean, the way they talk to each other is so otherworldly that I feel like it must be trying to establish the entire idea that everything that happens is not actually happening.
Yeah.
Like it's happening on another world, like a dream plane where all these things make sense. They all work together because it's a dream. No matter what doesn't make sense, it's smoothed together by the dream logic.
But here's the thing is we've seen that done perfectly in a movie that inspired the game, that inspired this movie.
Right.
Jacob's Ladder. This movie to me feels like a Jacob's Ladder that felt more of an obligation to be a horror movie.
Yep.
And we've seen in Jacob's Ladder how beautiful that narrative can be told of someone searching for something and searching for someone and not knowing that they have passed into the next life. And man alive, Jacob's Ladder is just such a fucking beautiful movie.
Such a great movie, yeah.
It was a huge inspiration to the original video game with all those nasty hospital scenes and stuff like that. This movie, I feel like, is just playing, like, not second fiddle, but, like, fourth or fifth fiddle to that. But I don't know, like I said, it's like, to me, the way that these characters just don't seem like normal human beings interacting with each other really took me out of it. Even going back to, like, the entire reason that they went to Silent Hill. Okay, you adopt a kid, the kid sleepwalks and has dreams where they're, like, talking about this other town, and you're like, guess I should take them there. Like, is that right? Is that what you do?
No.
Is that the whole reason you do that? I don't think it is.
Yeah, no. Yeah, your adopted child is spouting gibberish, and you're like, how do I find meaning in this?
And do it without telling your husband either, without telling the kid's dad?
Really
like,
weird.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange way to go about life for sure. And then they also like hint at the idea that like he may be abusive, but it never denies that. That's the problem, is like Gucci again,
yeah, Gucci.
whatever.
Yeah.
Gucci is like, you know, a lot of times women run away to a place like this. They're running away from an abusive husband. And he's like, just find her, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
I was like, okay.
well, he doesn't say, like, I'm not abusive. What a fucking weird thing to say. It's like...
So it makes it kind of hard to get on his side, too.
Exactly. It's like all of the elements with old Sean Bon is just like...
Scene bean.
What is he here for? Like, there's no reasoning behind it other than him smelling her at one point.
And they also like kind of half-ass hint that there might be something wrong with the daughter. Like,
yeah,
whenever she's at that gas station, she's like, the medications don't work anymore. You know that as her father or whatever. It's like,
yeah, what
are you talking about?
Yeah,
her non-sleepwalking medications? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. Like, this movie should have just been an hour and a half of a screen that said play Silent Hill. Like,
yeah,
don't... Not that I'm mad at Christoph Gans's attempts. It's just like, well, it doesn't try to do anything other than just be Silent Hill for an hour and a half or 2 hours. Like, I mean, that the game already exists. You've not improved or done anything by making this movie. Yeah.
And I mean, there are elements that are cool. Like, I really do like that they based the town of Silent Hill on the real life town of Centralia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. The place where there's a coal fire that started in the late 60s or early 70s that will continue to burn for 200 years.
Wow.
And nobody can live there, and it is just coal exhaust and the worst.
Yeah,
Hooray.
releasing fucking carbon dioxide, monoxide, one or the other, whichever one's really bad for you.
It's releasing all the bad.
All the bad. It's letting all the bad stuff out. And also, too, like, there's another town apparently in Australia where...
Yeah, there are others. Yeah,
there's been a fucking fire going for like 6,000 years underneath this place. And it's cool because it makes you wonder, like, sometime long ago, did some ancient person dig a hole and they're like, there's fire under here. Hell in the afterworld. Like, is that where this came from?
I mean, kinda, I would assume, right? Like, there is some element of discovering large, like, fire in the ground. What? How is that a thing? I'm saying it out loud, and as I'm saying it, I'm like, what the fuck? There is fire in the ground.
Yeah.
But that exists.
That's
so,
thing.
Yeah, that had to have at some point been like, somebody was digging because they were like, well, you know,
I need a hole. Duh.
Need a hole for whatever reason. And they were like, what the shit? There's fire under the earth. I'm scared.
And of course, I know about Centralia because it's the name of the first Car Bomb album. Check out Car Bomb if you haven't. Fucking sick ass band. I like that element of the movie. I like the weird cycle that it seems like the cult is stuck in, where they seem to be stuck in this weird time loop of like witch hunting and stuff. Like, that town is not progressing. Nothing is moving forward. Time itself has stopped in this town because this religious cult is so obsessed with purity and scouring the world of witches and stuff. Like, I like the idea that they are somehow frozen in time because of those pursuits. It's never really clarified, but it is kind of cool, I guess. Like, I like that about it.
I'm with you. Yeah,
and I love the soundtrack. Cool. The soundtrack, of course, it's like you can give all credit to the fucking video game because other than Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash, it's all music from the video game that's just been re-recorded.
Yeah,
and it's
Akira
very
Yamaoka was responsible for the soundscape of Silent Hill, and they just duplicated that with Jeff Dana. So yeah,
very effective.
If you like the game, it just nails the game while failing at being a great movie, but also having so many good horror moments that it's like, well, I mean, maybe this movie should be talked about more than it is, but it's also like, well, it's not good.
Yeah, because I know people that really are nuts about this thing. I mean, it ended up in the smoking bowl a million times because people love it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot to like here, and they even slipped in some, like, I think, slightly more interesting things in here with some of the dualities and stuff they present in the movie. Some of them I think are very obvious, like having characters that are opposites named Rose and Dahlia, both like flower names.
Right.
But you've also got, obviously, the good side and the evil side of the girl. You've got the main mom and the witch mom. Like, they're both just people trying to do the best for their kid and stuff, but presented in different ways. And obviously the two different worlds that the movie exists in. Like, they're trying to play around with some cool concepts and stuff, but
definitely.
It's just not very good, man.
No, it's too long. It's too video gamey. It doesn't nail the moments that it should. Like, it'll introduce some real great moments, like the time where Laurie Holden and Ronna Mitchell are in that like closet, basically, and Pyramid Head is like stabbing through the door and reaching through.
And there's all the bugs and shit.
Yeah, they're just like super intense moments, and then it just goes away.
And then there's like, oh, here's fucking faceless titty nurses. Why were the nurses hot? Like, why are they wearing sexy costumes? Why? And they were like doing the Thriller dance. What?
That's a great question. Why were the nurses hot? Why were they doing like the nurse they show that I guess they're supposed to be duplicates of just looks in on Alessa and notices she has burns, and then Alessa invents these entire like army of nurses protecting her. It's a strange bit.
But that's like shit you see in a video game where you're like,
exactly.
Well, you could have these enemies that are nurses, or they could have their tits out because teenage boys are playing the game. Like, those are video game choices. They don't make sense, and they also don't make sense for a fucking movie either. Although, on the subject of those burns, I gotta say, man alive, fuck. Like, all the parts in this movie, which there are many, where somebody gets, like, their skin burnt, like whenever the cop is being lowered over the fire. Woo, man, Jesus Christ. And you see the skin blistering over and stuff like that. Holy moly. That stuff is fucking brutal. Same with Alessa when you see the super charred body. Again, practical effects. Whenever it does the practical stuff, it's cool. Even in the flashbacks, it's got that like gritty, kind of like grindhousey kind of look about it. Fucking effective. More of that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this movie needs more of the visual and less attempts at being a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, the biggest impression I can take from this is that, what's the director's name again?
Christoph Gans.
Let that guy plan out the next Silent Hill game. I think that's the best thing that can come out of this. I think this whole movie reads as an audition to please let me direct the next video game, and I would let him do it. I think that he could nail it. I think he could do something very scary within the video game world that didn't really come out in a non-interactive format of a movie.
Yeah, you're right. I guess if I'm determining a score for this, it obviously does exactly what it's going for, which is to try to nail the feel of the game. But it fails then at being a good movie.
Yeah.
So it's important, I think, in the like evolution of video game to movie adaptations, because it tried so hard to actually be the video game, but it also just doesn't work as a horror movie or as a movie. So
yeah, totally.
For me, this is like, I don't know, like a 3.5 to a 4, maybe. What do you think?
I'm right there with you, man, because it's like everything that you said, man. It's too much fan service to the video game. If I wanted it to be this much like the video game, I'd just fucking play the video game instead.
Exactly.
And I would be more entertained because I'm the one in control. I don't really want to just sit here and watch someone play Silent Hill for 2 hours. Only it's really mainly just the cutscenes and none of the interactive stuff.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't work to watch. It works to play. But just to sit back and watch, not so much.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good elements to this, I think, like, visually.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work.
and just fucking over 2 hours long. Come on, man.
Too long.
Cut all the Sean Bean stuff. It doesn't need more man in it to be a fucking movie. Whoever made that decision's a fucking moron. Cut all the Sean Bean stuff. Cut all these just like needless lengthening of the movie parts. You know, there's so many scenes in here that are just obviously just to make the movie longer that don't need to be in there. And maybe you'd have something more watchable, but yeah, as it is, I'm right there with you. Like 3.5, 4. I'm in no rush to watch this anytime again, man. But it does kind of make me want to play some video games. So
yeah, same.
There's that.
Yep, it is effective in that way.
Well, we'll be having some fun on the show next week because we're going to be reviewing something that is a hoot and a holler. Tell them about it, Steve.
It is Slither, submitted by Dr. G Virus.
Woo, that's right. This is part of our Fanuary series, right?
That's right. We are just picking movies from the movies submitted to us. This first episode in January, we picked personally. The second episode will be picked by a vote from the movies that have been submitted. Third one's already been picked by my wife from the movie submitted. It's going to be Young Frankenstein. And then the fourth one will be randomly selected as usual.
Awesome. How can people get their movies submitted into that Fanuary Bowl?
You can go to patreon.com, baby.
Boom. That's right. Trim Spa, baby.
Yeah, patreon.com/dead and lovely. Go become a $5 patron. You can submit a movie to the smoking bowl that may get randomly selected to be reviewed on the show.
That's right. And also, you just support your boys, so that's cool, too. And you get access to all the cool Patreon-only episodes and stuff that we do a couple times a month. So be sure to go over there and support us on Patreon. Also, if you want to help support the show, rate and review wherever you can. I've been keeping my eyes peeled. I've not seen any good reviews pop up here in a couple of weeks. Put some good ones on there, and I'm going to read them on the show, okay? So you can be fucking famous.
God,
you can be fucking famous. Go
Imagine.
in there, put on a good review, and I'll make you a star, baby. Be somebody, baby. Leave a review for the show. And also hang out with us on Instagram and all the other social media stuff.
Yeah. Instagram, Dead Lovely Pod, Twitter, same. Also, we do the Friday night screaming chat where we watch a movie that maybe isn't that great, and we go, ha ha ha, it's not that great, and we drink.
That's a good thing. Everybody needs that. Everybody needs that in their life. So be sure to check that stuff out. Hang out with us. I hope everyone is moving from a safe and happy holiday season into a safe and happy New Year's. I mean, I know myself, I never really get into New Year's and stuff anyway, so I'm not fucking doing anything. Last year I was playing a show. Of course, that's not happening this year, so I'll just be at home, and I hope you guys are doing the same. Hopefully you guys are spending time with people that are right there in your little closed up bubble or people that are in your home. You can still have a good time hanging out at the house. Please be careful. Please don't overburden that fucking healthcare system.
Please.
Jesus Christ.
Please.
We are on the fucking verge of collapse. And keep in mind too that, you know, if that healthcare system gets overwhelmed, if those ICU beds and stuff like that are all full, even if you're Mr. Responsible and you don't fucking get COVID, but you fall out a window and break your leg, or you get in a car crash, or you have a heart attack, or you have a stroke, that's the same ICU you go into.
Yeah.
And if there's not a bed for you, you're fucked.
Yep.
Okay? So please, for the love of fucking God, everybody, please be careful. Please be responsible. Don't overwhelm our medical workers. It's at a tipping point as it is. So please, everyone, be safe out there. Thank you very much. This has been my TED Talk.
That was a good TED Talk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And be sure to tune in next week on the show. I look forward to talking about that movie with you because it's one of my favorites.
Same.
It's a good one. It's a gross movie. Ew.
It's so gross. Yeah.
Ugh.
It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys be sure to tune in then. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of Dead and Lovely. I have been Uncle Ben.
I've been Hollywood Steve.
We've been Dead and Lovely. Catch y'all next time. Bye. All I wanna do is play video games. something video game. I was just kind of wondering though, like, what video games do you think she would like to play? What is sleepy and lazy enough and like sad enough that Lana Del Rey would play? Because I think she's playing fucking PlayStation WWF Raw, and she's like making her own characters and stuff like you did back in the day.
Yeah,
that's what I think she's playing. She's into some like fucking redneck stuff.
Oh, okay. I was thinking maybe she was into like Undertale or something, but like, yeah, it is probably something unexpected, but also like not great. Where it's just like, what?
Backyard wrestling game.
Yeah, like, why are you into that? That's crazy.
All I want to do is play backyard wrestling. And she's asleep again.
Oh, Lana, no.
Lana, wake up. You got to record the song.